the Stampeders at McMahon Stadium. It's a very comfortable late October evening at McMahon, 11 degrees. And the wind shouldn't be a factor for this game. Both coaches trying to get their teams playoff ready. And for Jim Popp, he has a couple of games to determine who will be the replacement for Anthony Calvillo. We should see both Jason Moss and Marcus Brady in this game. And across the way, Tom Higgins is going back to Henry Burris for this game, and he wants to develop some momentum heading into Regina for their Western semifinal on November the 11th.
Well, that's why you'll see all the starters for the Calgary Stampeders, because even though it's a confident football team, especially offensively, they've only won one of their last 5.
And the Alouettes have lost 5 of 6, but got a nice helping hand last night from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. David Duval kicks it deep, and we're underway. Marcus Howell from his 10. And 88 is met as he crosses the 30-yard line, and he'll be tossed down there. Matthew Prue with the tackle and a penalty marker on the play, and there is Henry Burris, who sat out last week but comes back in, and on 31 touchdowns this year leads this offense out.
Joffrey Reynolds in the backfield, 1,146 yards for Joffrey Reynolds on the season, a 5.5-yard average. His receiving corps led this year by Nick Lewis, over 1,000 yards for Lewis. Inside receiver position, Jermaine Copeland also having a great year up there. And Rob Lazio just signed a new contract extension along with Brett Ralph.
Starting lineup brought to you by Holiday Inn Hotels. Penalty was against Calgary, an illegal block, so they're back at the 17, and here's Joffrey Reynolds out of the backfield and up to the 24, close to 7 for the Stampeder running back.
Well, defensively for the Montreal Alouettes, one change in that defensive line. Eric Wilson will play for Devon Claybrooks. More on that as this game goes on. Into the secondary, it's been the young guys in that secondary, Diamond Ferry and linebacking core, Diamond Ferry and TJ Hill, that have been the leaders in that front 7, and Randy Drew is the nominee in the secondary, standing player.
2nd and 2, and the Stamps go straight ahead to the fullback Gerald Commission, and he has a first down. So Henry Burris, 9 300-yard games in his last 10 starts. And one of the outstanding player candidates. First and 10 at the 28. And here's Reynolds, and look and weave into the secondary all the way to the 45-yard line. Mark Castell on the tackle.
Joffrey Reynolds out of the gate last week. Just 57 yards rushing for Reynolds against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. A good start to establish him early in this football game. Of course, Henry Burris did not play against Winnipeg a week ago, so he wants to get back in a rhythm, and the best way to do that is to run the ball early and establish a line of scrimmage.
17 for Reynolds, who had 154 against Saskatchewan, his season best. First down at the 45, right back to Joffrey Reynolds. Bounced off first contact, and now shakes another tackle, and has 7 before Randy Drew, that double nominee, helps bring him down.
Well, the only thing that Tom Higgins won't like about this play is that because Reynolds bounced back to the weak side, Henry Burris ends up picking up a block, and Henry Burris is still working on the rehab on his non-throwing shoulder, and you're going to see as Joffrey Reynolds bounces back to this backside when it's all stuffed up at the point of attack. Here comes number 1, Henry Burris, and he's going to try and throw that block with that shoulder.
2nd and 3, and the toss. Backside, Reynolds has got a lot of room. Down the sidelines he goes, and he'll be knocked out at the 28-yard line. So Joffrey Reynolds off to a hot start in his 17th straight start of the year.
A couple of running plays inside to get that defense to start to get inside the gaps. Now you're inside this gap, leaving the outside gap wide open, and Joffrey Reynolds, before he even gets the ball, notices that. Now it's a one-on-one. He gets out and around that corner and uses his speed down the sideline.
First and 10, Stampeders from the
First
20.
possession of the game, and Reynolds already 3 carries, 55 yards. Ralph in motion, right back. Steady diet of Reynolds, and he's dropped at the 25, short gain that time.
Yeah, that's one of those situations. If you're the Calgary Stampeders, you don't fix it unless it's broken. And right now, it's the Joffrey Reynolds show. And keep feeding Joffrey Reynolds. Just keep feeding that horse.
Funny, when these two teams met back in the summer, the issue was, why aren't they giving Joffrey Reynolds the ball?
Well, this will help with all of those stats.
George Cortez seems to have just about everything clicking for this Calgary offense when Henry Burris is at the controls. 2nd and 8. And Burris buying some time, and he's got Ryan Thelwell at the goal line. Touchdown. There's touchdown pass number 32 for Henry Burris.
Henry Burris looks like he is going to run towards the line of scrimmage. And the moment he makes that move, he ends up buying some time, but when he steps towards the line of scrimmage and makes that move, it freezes the secondary. Mark Castell, who is way on the backside, the guy covering Ryan Thelwell, he comes up thinking that Burris is going to run, and that's why Thelwell's 3 or 4 yards wide open in behind him.
Sandro DeAngelis with the extra point. Good start for the Stamps. For the 7th time this year, they open with a touchdown. Drive, Ryan Thelwell has his 4th touchdown of the year, all 4, by the way, here at McMahon Stadium. Stamps 4-1-1 when they have scored an opening possession touchdown. Ashland Davis with the return for the Alouettes. And he is cut down on a good tackle by Matt Grudegood. Let's have a look at Ryan Thelwell's 4th of the year.
Well, first of all, 3-man pressure from the Montreal Alouettes. And when you just send 3, if the quarterback can pick it up, and Henry Burris is on top of his game, even though he missed last week, he is on top of his game. It slowed down for him. He knew he had time, so he bought some more. He moved around in that pocket until Ryan Thelwell opened up, and then he hit him with the ball. As long as you can recognize that 3-man pressure as a quarterback, you can be patient.
So the Alouettes offense starts at their 29. Jason Moss with his first Montreal start. The former Eskimo to Kerry Carter out of the backfield, incomplete.
It will be Jason Moss, and Kerry Carter will be the fullback in that formation in the backfield, along with Darren Diedrich. Jared Payton will be the tailback. Receiving core, Ben Cahoon over 1,000 yards once again, 1,034 to be exact, with 4 touchdowns. And it's been a young left side of the offensive line with Josh Burke and Skip Seagraves. Seagraves in his 4th start at guard, Burke his 8th at tackle.
And we're told we'll see both Jason Moss and Marcus Brady in this game. Early movement, Moss with a pass, and should have been picked off. Julian Battle had to go off his hands. Stamps defensive line moved prematurely. Question is whether they were drawn. And it looks like the call is going against Calgary.
Offside, Calgary, number 92. 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
Anthony Gargiulo called for offside.
Middle of the season, the Calgary Stampeders switched from a 3-man front to a 4-man front. Their defense now looks a little bit like this, with Pat McDonald up there at defensive end. There's the linebacking core with Shannon James. Trey Young moves down from safety, and that means Dwayne Carpenter plays in that safety spot.
So 2nd and 5 after the penalty, and quickly to Payton out of the backfield, incomplete. And so Jason Moss 0 for 2, and the Alouettes will have to kick it away.
Yeah, a little bit off the target. Looks like Jason Moss may be a little bit nervous. He may be pressing things a little bit out of the gate, trying to make things happen, and when you press, you squeeze the ball a little tighter. Both those throws were short, flat type throws to the running back out in the backfield. Not real tough throws to make, but he threw them in behind the target. He'll just have to settle down a little bit.
Damon Duval, the number 1 punter in the CFL. And he blasts this one. Sends Marcus Howell backpedaling to his 20.
Oh,
And good contact there as Howell brings it back to the 34, 55-yard punt. Where Jermaine Franklin is patrolling the sidelines for us today.
Tom Higgins stopped his team in the middle of practice this week and had an intense discussion with them using his words, considering their lack of effort up to that point. Higgins told them they had 2 more periods to shape up or he was going to kick them off the field because it was useless to practice bad habits, let alone detrimental to the team. And that's the challenge the Stampeders will face from here on out, staying sharp with nothing on the line.
And from all reports, Jermaine, it's really the first time Tom Higgins has lost his cool since he's been the head man. This ball is fumbled, and Randy Drew has it for the Alouettes. So an early turnover after an impressive first possession. The Alouette defense comes up with a loose ball.
well, Randy Drew comes up with the fumble. It's a running play straight up the middle to Joffrey Reynolds. And I believe it's Kai Ellis who's going to step up. Number 93 is involved in the play. Take a look as Joffrey Reynolds tries to cut back again. It's 93 Kai Ellis. He steps right up from that middle linebacker spot. He causes the fumble. And Randy Drew comes up with the first turnover of this football game, the nominee for outstanding defensive player and rookie, the Montreal Alouettes.
So the Owls take over. The hit screen falls incomplete and a penalty marker thrown on the play. And for Joffrey Reynolds, that is the 3rd lost fumble of the season.
A great start for Joffrey Reynolds in that first series. It was really all Joffrey Reynolds till the touchdown throw, but that was a forced fumble by Kai Ellis, the middle linebacker, and Randy Drew adds to his impressive stats totals. 60 tackles coming into this game for Randy Drew.
Offside, Montreal, number 86. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
Randy Drew, one of the leaders on the football team at the halfback spot from the secondary position. There's the strip, and that's a caused fumble. That's a forced fumble by Kai Ellis, not a mistake by Joffrey Reynolds. Right there with the right hand, he pulls it out of there. And Randy Drew adds 3 interceptions, 3 sacks, and now another fumble recovery.
Ben Cahoon was offside, so 1st and 15, and good hard running by Payton, Jared Payton, with the catch and run. And he'll be marked out at the 22, close to a first down.
Jared Payton there, Chris, as he comes out, this is what he likes. Remember the first series for Jason Moss, a little bit off on his throws. And Payton's going to come out, but this is a good throw because it's in front of the target, and it allows Jared Payton to take the football downhill. So Payton is going to catch this nice little relaxed throw, and he can keep his downhill momentum rather than have to stop, put the brakes on, catch the ball, and then turn and run again.
Gain of 14, so 2nd and 1. And they'll give to the first man through, Kerry Carter off the right side. And Carter tripped up but should have the first down.
Well, Jason Moss has a very good opportunity here to sort of make a lot of bad memories over the last little while go away. I mean, Jason Moss, he can relax in this game and play a good first half because Jim Popp has said that we will see Marcus Brady here in this game tonight as well. There's some of Moss's numbers back in 2005 in Edmonton when he was right on his game, and then it's fallen apart in Hamilton, but he wants to have a short memory there.
Although he'd like to remember that Western semifinal from 2005 when he came off the bench. Should be a free play, early movement, a pass to Kerry Watkins. And he is pushed out at the 15. And again, the debate is who drew who into that neutral zone. Offensive line of Montreal pointing at the front 4 of Calgary and vice versa. But Jason Moss came off the bench in that Western semi here, 15 of 18, 144, and the game-winning touchdown. So as much as he's got a clean slate, he'd like to use those positive memories from a couple of years back.
And he does have a lot of positive memories to lean on. I mean,
Offside, Calgary. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
What he wants to forget is just 5 wins in 24 starts as the starting quarterback for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That's where he wants to just say, football players sometimes have to have a short memory and make that all go away, and he can do that if he can establish something in this first half and maybe hang on to that starting job.
His cadence has pulled Calgary offside a couple of times, and Jared Payton has the Stamps defense waiting for him, and he'll be dropped behind the line of scrimmage. Trey Young fired up. The former safety who's moved to will linebacker. 33 on 33.
Generally speaking, the 40 defense with 4 down linemen, Jared Payton right in the middle of that backfield right there. The 40 defense is better against the run. And you could simplify it by saying it's better against the run because there's 4 defensive linemen. So defensive coordinator Tim Burke has changed the defense, moves Trey Young down a linebacker, and it's better against the run that way.
Stamps the last place run defense in the league. A pass, and that one jarred away from former Calgary Stampeder Elijah Thurman, and Trey Young is in the thick of it once again.
Well, it also gives the Calgary Stampeders some flexibility in that now if Trey Young is going to line up as a linebacker, he is the former free safety. So if you can move Trey Young around, make him the free safety sometime. Bring down a defensive back and put him in the box. That makes it very difficult for opposing quarterbacks to read exactly where he wants to go with the football.
There are the numbers for Duval on the year as he sizes up a 24-yard field goal attempt. With Ben Cahoon the holder. And Duval puts it through. So they get 3 from the Reynolds fumble. And are on the scoreboard here at McMahon. They have won 4 of their last 5 visits to McMahon Stadium, but Henry Burris and his Calgary offense goes back to work, scrimmaging from the 35-yard line with a 7-3 lead. And a pass for Reynolds that goes over his head, incomplete.
Good start for Joffrey Reynolds running the football. As in the first drive of this game for the Calgary Stampeders, it was all Reynolds, and he may be, this is advanced scouting report, when the Montreal Alouettes have lost Devon Claybrooks for the rest of the year. The interior part of that defensive line and the running game for Calgary was the way they tried to attack both inside and out.
Reynolds with 5 carries, 57 yards. Burris looks at 2nd and 10. And looks backside, and again it's Joffrey Reynolds. And Reynolds in some heavy traffic. Did he fumble again? Yes, he did. And John Bowman's got the ball. And Bowman is finally pushed out of bounds, but the fumble problems for Joffrey Reynolds are reoccurring here in week 17, and that's too close to playoff time for anybody in the Stamp camp to be comfortable.
Without question, and Joffrey Reynolds this time I think is going to run into his own offensive lineman as he cuts back against the flow right there. Godfrey Ellis runs squarely into Joffrey Reynolds as he's trying to make the block on Alain Kashama. Kashama causes the problems. Bowman picks up the fumble, I believe, but you can see right there he runs into Godfrey Ellis, and there is his knee down is the question.
Well, there is no challenge flag being thrown. And this ball snaps, so here we go. And the swing pass for Ashland Davis incomplete. And they're ruling it a forward pass.
Well, it can no longer be challenged now that that play was run by the Montreal Alouettes. So let's take a look just one more time. This is another,
I think it might have been worth at least
maybe a look for the Calgary Stampeders, but you can see it looked like even Godfrey Ellis kicked the ball out of his hands. But was his knee down there before it came out? Very close.
Very close, but I think it was the correct call.
Go down!
John Bowman's 2nd fumble recovery of the year. And the 2nd Reynolds fumble of the game. Payton out of the backfield. And Jared Payton with some extra effort to the 18-yard line. And within a yard and a half of the first down.
Calgary Stampeders so far are going to a lot of zone defense, meaning their defensive backs and linebackers are going to drop, get about 10 yards deep or deeper, which will mean that the Alouettes will dump the ball a lot to their backs, and they've done a lot of that in the first part of this game, but they certainly want to take advantage of 2 turnovers now that have put them in great field position.
Jared Payton going off after a terrific second effort. That extra 2-yard surge gives Jim Pop the option of going for it, but the more immediate concern is for Payton, who has had a hip problem this season. 3rd and a yard, and it's a healthy yard. Kerry Carter off the right side should have it.
Kerry Carter, number 7 with the carry.
Terrence Patrick got great penetration, and he forced Kerry Carter to bounce that outside. He looked like Kerry Carter just wanted to hit it. I mean, that's a big back in Carter at 237. He wanted to just come downhill, but you're going to see penetration right in this area from Terrence Patrick. When he gets up in that close, now it causes Kerry Carter to bounce to the outside, and he's going to be that close, and he just gets it.
Jim Pop has a fresh set of downs, but he doesn't have his feature back at the moment, as Jared Payton has gone to the sidelines. Payton, who lit up this Calgary defense for 160 yards at Percival Molson earlier in the season.
They put in Avon Coburn in some of these cases, and if they're going to swing the ball out and throw to the backs a lot, he might be a good option for Montreal.
Bunch formation, left side, and there is Coburn, but they'll give it on the end around. Kerry Watkins, and Watkins down to the 8-yard line before Shannon James, the defensive nominee for the Stamps, made the tackle.
Kerry Watkins is right down at the bottom of your screen right here in the corner, and it's going to be fake here. Kerry Watkins coming around the opposite end, and what they're trying to do is get all the defenders to pinch to the fake to Avon Coburn. Once they all pinch thinking it's run that way, that's the misdirection to get Watkins around the end. Shannon James chases him down from behind.
2nd and 1, and Jared Payton's checked back in. First man through is Carter, and he'll have the first down at the 5.
Again for the Alouettes, first down.
Kerry Carter, the native of Vaughan, just outside Toronto, and NFL duty with Seattle and Washington.
Marcel Belfay, the offensive coordinator for Montreal, wanting to establish the run as well. We've seen those little swing passes to running backs are basically a glorified pitch out in a lot of ways.
This is where the Alouettes have struggled this year, finishing off opportunities and drives. Payton straight ahead. And he is a tough man to finally corral at the 1 when it looked like he was initially stopped at the 4. T. George tried to wrestle him down.
With good running backs, you always want to say the first tackler cannot bring them down. And it was that was the case with Jared Payton.
The Alouettes lead the CFL in time of possession, but they are 7th in points.
Well, points off turnovers is a very important stat, and they need to get that right now.
2nd and goal, Jared Payton. And at the goal line, has he broken the plane? No signal yet. This has been an issue 4 times this year. They've been stopped on goal line stands, including last week, and look at how close he was.
Well, you know what, on 2nd down, it's not reviewable, but it looked to me like Jared Payton got awful close, if not in the end zone. There he is there. And as he spins here, he's stopped initially, no question, but look at that spin. And I was wondering if that ball did cross the plane when he spun out of the tackle. Be a better angle. They're ruling it on the 1, but you can't review it on 2nd down.
His shoulders and helmet ended up in the end zone, but the ball was on his chest. And now Kerry Carter is in, but there is a marker on the play.
Well, you know what? Actually, you can review it if it's on the goal line. But that's irrelevant depending on what the...
Calgary, number 77. The penalty is declined. Touchdown.
Tay George was offside. Touchdown stands. Kerry Carter has his first CFL major score.
Well, it was the toughest 3-4 yards that they're going to get, the Montreal Alouettes on offense, because each one of these runs Boy, they paid full retail in there. A lot of hard hitting going on down in the trenches. It started with Jared Payton, pounded a couple of times, and Carter barely gets in. Calgary defense made it tough.
Last week they were inside the 10 3 times against the Argos and couldn't punch it in. Damon Duval adds the extra point. And the Alouettes have taken the lead thanks to 2 fumbles by Joffrey Reynolds.
Get that across the line, because Jared Payton, he took about 5-6 hits in 2 runs, and then Kerry Carter, it was right down to the wire. They had those big backs had to fight for every inch they got down there, and just did break the plane. And that strength from Kerry Carter was the difference.
Not a lot to spare. And again, it's been an issue. A lot of trouble scoring down around the goal line this year for Jim Pop's crew. One of the reasons that they're a couple of games under 500 and in danger of finishing below 500 for the first time since returning to Montreal in 1996. That kickoff does stay in, and Marcus Howell maneuvers his way back across the 35. Less than a half minute to go.
Maybe the most important thing that Henry Burris, Chris, can do right now is to give the ball back to Joffrey Reynolds and try and keep his head in this game. I mean, a couple of fumbles early on for Joffrey Reynolds, and right now in the back of his mind, the playoffs and his problems that he's had in the past, the playoffs around the corner, his fumbles, he doesn't want that to start to creep into it and become an issue. So getting him the ball right now is going to be big for his confidence.
Well, he was the focal point of the opening drive for all the right reasons. The last 2 possessions, he's made mistakes, and that pass into traffic intended for Kenyon Rambo, who was double teamed.
It's kind of like a receiver that, you know, has dropped a couple of throws. You hear quarterbacks all the time say, you got to go back to him. Here's Joffrey Reynolds' last 2 series. There was 1 fumble there, and then another on this little screen pass. And this was his own offensive lineman. Gabriel's giving him problems, but you know, that confidence can be so fragile and change in a heartbeat, and Joffrey Reynolds needs to touch the ball again before they get into halftime, or he's going to sit there and think about it the whole time.
So 2nd and 10. Final play of the opening quarter, and that one for Copeland falls incomplete. The break on the ball by the Alouettes. End of 1 quarter here in Calgary.
You see the Montreal Alouettes with the time of possession advantage, and that's largely based on those 2 turnovers, the 2 fumbles by Joffrey Reynolds, who I truly believe really needs to see the ball again and get that confidence back.
Both teams locked in 3rd place. They're not moving, but they both are going to the playoffs, and they've got a couple of games to fine-tune. Did you like these games, or were they a little inconvenient?
Unfortunately, I had to play in a couple of these for the wrong reasons in Saskatchewan. Very tough games these are to play in, because it's tough to get that intensity level up. It's kind of like playoff hockey, and you cover hockey as well, Chris, and you know that when you're covering, you see that intensity go way up in a playoff game. You say, well, where was that in the regular season? But you don't know how to control. It happens. You come out in the playoffs, you're at a different level. These games are difficult to get to that level.
Burke Dales booms one. Ashland Davis back at his 17. He's stripped of the football. And the Alouettes get it back. But that was close. Desrevaux saves it for Montreal after the 55-yard punt. And was that Brandon Browner, the man who stripped the ball from Ashland Davis?
I think it was 27 for the Calgary Stampeders right there. He tackles the football. Ashland Davis is going to go right over and say to Danny Desrevaux, hey, I owe you dinner. Because Desrevaux just hustling to the spot is there to bail out his teammate.
Holding, Montreal number 46. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Former Stampeder Walter Spencer called for the hold. Brandon Browner's made quite an impression in his first year, and he's the gunner on special teams, and he nearly got a football back for the Stampeders. Not eligible for Rookie of the Year. He probably would have been the choice. On the corner for the Stamps. So back at the 9, Jason Moss with a flag flying. Over the middle for Ben Cahoon, and a one-handed snare. And Mr. Cahoon adds to his highlight reel.
Well, he's already up there in the 10,000-yard club career. There is a flag on the field. We'll see if this tremendous catch by Ben Cahoon is coming back, and it looks like it may by his reaction.
That's still worth another look.
Oh, without question. I mean, the leading receiver for the Montreal Alouettes, 84 catches, which also leads the Canadian Football League and all receivers, and he's made a bunch, folks, in his career just like that.
Repeat first down.
For Ben Cahoon, one hand is as good as both. And that's a beauty. In traffic, stabbing that pigskin with the right hand.
Kerry Watkins was offside, negating that highlight reel catch. So it's 1st and 15. Back inside the 5. That fastball went through the hands of the intended target.
Ben Cahoon very close to moving up into 10th spot in Canadian Football League history. There's his 10,236 receiving yards. That's first in Montreal history. 2,700-yard games, 53 touchdowns, and he has caught at least one pass in 88 consecutive games. Now, he's got to catch one here to keep it going. That's not going to be a problem. Ben Cahoon has been, when you look at that top 10,000 list, really the only true Montreal Alouette in that list.
The outstanding player, the top Canadian nominee, once again, out of Montreal. 2nd and 15. Long pass for Delorier, who was jostling there with Franz Clements. The ball sailed too long and into the Calgary bench.
Well, probably the Alouettes will have to give up a safety here, but just to finish that thought with Ben Cahoon, that Ben Cahoon, you think about his career at the Alouettes, all the receivers in those top 10,000, they've 10,000 lists, the top 10 played, they've represented pretty much every team in the Canadian Football League, and when Ben Cahoon moved into that, that's when Montreal was represented finally.
And he is 85 yards away from passing Tommy Joe Coffey to get to number 8 in yards receiving for his career. So he continues to climb the charts. They'll run the play clock down and kill a little bit more time as Anwar Stewart jumps the gun to chew up a little bit more of the second quarter. Wind not really a factor here.
No, they'll reload, and just while we have a chance, we can show you the only other Montreal Alouette when we...
Procedure, Montreal, number 9. Half the distance to the goal, repeat third down, clock will be held to the snap.
Terry Vaughn right there in that top list. So there's a top 4, and Ben Cahoon could pass Tommy Joe Coffey and get into 10th spot here this evening. But only Terry Vaughn was the only guy. 1 year for Terry Vaughn in Montreal.
I think I had been going to 8th. I was a little high. He may end up 8th before he's done. It's a 1-point game here in Calgary. 9. Alouettes lead after the safety. And the Stampeders opt to take possession at their own 35-yard line. Henry Burris and the offense looked sharp on their first possession. They've been stagnant since. Here's a pass to Jermaine Copeland, the former Alouette, and a man recently voted to the top 25 all-time Alouette team with a catch over midfield.
Henry Burris had a couple of options there. He had Nick Lewis, who was also open on the short route, or else he had Copeland right here who's going to run that one, and he's got Nick Lewis who's going to run this one. So there's your 2 layers, and really, when Henry Burris gets outside, he can pick either one. Copeland opens up a lot deeper, so he takes the bigger gain.
Herb Zurkowski had a report this week in the Montreal Gazette that the Alouettes had been offered Copeland early in the season and turned down the trade opportunity to regain him. There's a pass dropped over the middle.
Yeah,
intended for Joffrey Reynolds.
And there's Joffrey Reynolds again. Burris wants to get something going because he has been on a tear. And last game that he played versus Winnipeg, not the last week, but 2 weeks ago, Henry Burris over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. There are his numbers on the season. Passing touchdowns, 32. And he's run the ball more than any time in his career this season.
Coming into the game, 21 touchdowns in his last 6 starts, 12 touchdown passes in the last 3 games. So he has been red hot. And that pass across the middle is caught. Ryan Thelwell with the grab, but he'll be short of the first down at the Montreal 47.
He did rest last week, and we mentioned that, but Burris still is in the running right now in a big way for the outstanding player of the West. And, you know, his competition from Saskatchewan, his own football team, Kerry Joseph, has put together such a great 2007 campaign, and I'm not by any means taking Joe Smith, great running back, tailback for the BC Lions, out of that mix, but certainly Henry Burris's numbers warrant strong argument for him as outstanding player.
Ashland Davis awaits, and Burke Dales will try and hit him in the corner. This is why Dales had lost his job earlier this year, but that's the kind of directional kick that Tom Higgins was looking for, and Dales is pleased. The news this week to hear that Anthony Calvillo's wife Alexia had been diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma. We are happy to hear that the prognosis is good, and our wishes and prayers are with the Calvillos. And Marcus Brady has come into the game as they change things up, looking for Anthony Calvillo's replacement. And we talked to Jim Pop about the Calvillo news from earlier this week.
We're very thankful for all the support from everybody. We've had overwhelming response from the public, our fans, especially our teammates, our former teammates. And the Calvillos are very thankful for all that. And we just ask you to continue praying for them. The prognosis of the type cancer that Alexia has is a very treatable one. And knowing how strong the Calvillos are, I'm sure she'll do just fine.
Yeah, and it is a small fraternity, the football fraternity, and everyone across the country is, of course, got their fingers crossed that Alexia makes a full recovery. And our thoughts and prayers with the Calvillo family. And you know, it's that shot of perspective that you get. I mean, I know everyone's all wrapped up in the playoff drive about to begin, and football is your whole life, and then all of a sudden something like this happens, and you get that perspective back. But that's where the Calvillos should know that that's where all of the thoughts and prayers from the entire league are. We just all have our fingers crossed, and we're all hoping for the best for the Calvillo family.
Josh Burke was shaken up on that last play. He's getting attention, and we'll step out for a moment with the Alouettes leading 10-9. Stay tuned to TSN tonight as the Canadian kid, Steve Molitor, returns to Casino Rama to take on his next challenger, Thailand's Fashung 3K Battery, in the defense of his IBF Junior Featherweight Championship title. Live coverage begins at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, after the football game tonight. And there is the rookie Josh Burke out of Tecumseh, Ontario, putting some weight on that leg as he makes his way to the sidelines.
Well, there's been some challenges for that offensive line throughout the season. I mean, ranked last against this sacks against with 64. And they have the youngsters to the side. Josh Burke, one of them. To the left side of that formation, Skip Seagraves another.
Paul Lambert moves in at left guard now. Seagraves moves out to Burke's tackle spot, and out of the backfield, it's Avon Coburn. And Coburn with a first down up to the 29-yard line. And again, Marcus Brady now at quarterback, and Jim Pop told us we'd see both as he looks for somebody that can carry the mail into the postseason for Montreal.
New quarterback, but not new offensive scheme. Instead of Jared Payton, it's going to be Avon Coburn who comes out of that backfield. And again, this is a guy that if you're going to drop the ball out here, and that's the offense is dictating, and the defense is dictating that you have to drop the ball in the flat, then a guy like Avon Coburn is really suited well for that because he can do a lot in space, make people miss.
17 on that pass and run to the back, and now Brady looks deep downfield, and he's got Elijah Thurman, who stepped in front of Cedric Williams to make the catch. Biggest offensive play of the night so far for the Alouettes, 38 to the former Stampeders.
Yeah, Elijah Thurman along the sideline is going to show some composure. He's not going to panic as the ball starts to arrive, so he doesn't tip off to Williams that ball is inside. He waits till the last second, and when he does, he times it up perfect, cuts in behind Williams, comes up with a big play.
Jason Moss in the first quarter, 2 for 8, 23 yards. And now Brady, 2 for 2, 55. And the option, and Marcus Brady, the keeper, down to the 32. Using that other element of his repertoire. 3 starts in relief of Anthony Calvillo when he was injured. He was 1 and 2 and threw for 300 yards in a game against BC.
Yeah, that was the one that people were starting to say quickly that Marcus Brady maybe had taken that next step, that he had matured, that he understood the offense, because he walked into the BC Lions defense and threw for 300 yards. In that game, Jared Payton had 119 rushing, so the offense was hitting on all cylinders there, and it was pretty optimistic on Marcus Brady.
11 on that carry, another first down, and a quick hitter to Cahoon, and he is down to the 19-yard line. So Brady's got the moving.
And Marcus Brady also had the luxury of watching what the Calgary defense was doing from the sideline in the first quarter while Jason Moss was playing, and he has come in here with a plan and an agenda, and that is to move the football down the field. He's made the big play to Elijah Thurman. Now that opens up underneath a little bit more for guys like Ben Cahoon.
13 for Cahoon, who had 9 catches for 140 and his first 2 touchdowns of the year in the first meeting against the Stamps. And now Ashlyn Davis takes the hitch, and Davis down to the 7-yard line. It's another Montreal first down.
Oh, I love the formation. A little change up from Marcel Belfait to take the tackles on the offensive line right here and move them outside. See Big Dave Much. What's Dave Much? Well, one tackle's already gone. There they go. Now they get out of the backfield. Now it's just 3-man offensive line. So the Calgary defense go, wait a minute, this is brand new. Who gets who? And what it does is it gets that tackle, Big Dave Much, out there to block on the screenplay for Ashlyn Davis. Nice formation, a little change up there.
Nice looking drive of 91 yards, first and goal. Avon Coburn straight ahead, touchdown.
Oh boy.
Marcus Brady just made a statement, didn't he?
Did he ever? Marcus Brady just grabbed the job. I mean, Marcus Brady took it from his own goal line and punched it in. And he used the entire arsenal. He was 4 for 4 on the drive, throwing the ball. He finishes off with a nice run up the middle, and he has the Calgary Stampeder defense guessing. They're still talking about that new formation and weren't lined up right on that play.
Touchdown run for Coburn, who was in for Jared Payton, who was nicked earlier. The Alouettes, with their best drive, have a 17-9 lead here at McMahon. Of the season, Jim Popp wanted to get 2 different looks at running back, a power back like initially Robert Edwards or now Jared Payton, and a scat back. And he tried Mike Emo. He was injured twice, and even Coburn has that burst. That's a nice different look from Jared Payton.
Well, you know, the Montreal Alouettes have gone through 9 tailbacks since Mike Pringle left the football team, and 6 this year have started at tailback. Trying to settle in, but Avon Coburn got some good blocking up front.
Marcus Howell from his 4. And he is upended after a short return, and a late flag is tossed. Walter Spencer's already been flagged once in this game. He's fired up, playing his old team. Walter Spencer comes into this as the number 2 man on special team tackles in the Canadian Football League with 23.
Major foul, piling on. Montreal number 46. 15-yard penalty from the end of the play. First down.
And the second penalty against Spencer in the game.
Let's go back to that touchdown and show you how Brian Clark Brian Clark gets in a bind here. He has got 2 gaps to fill, one there and one there. He's the only guy. Now, if he picks a side, he's in trouble. Brian Chu makes him pick a side, and that's what opens up the lane for Avon Colbert. Middle linebacker has to jam it in there and try and play both gaps, which is very difficult.
Fake to Reynolds on a roll, and Burris opts for the outside man, Jermaine Copeland. Looked like he wanted to go downfield, and at the very last moment, went to another read.
You talked in the break, Chris, about how difficult it is for athletes to play in a game that doesn't change where they are in the standings. But as I said, it's difficult, but it's part of being professional. And you can see that Henry Burris wants to come and respond to that long drive by Marcus Brady, and he's being professional right now.
Ball at midfield after a 19-yard pickup. And he guns this one in for a first down. Back to Copeland. And Jermaine Copeland is starting to approach 1,000 yards. Came in with 9:06.
And that's the other thing that Coach Higgins and I know that the Montreal Alouettes as well and Jim Popper are concerned with, that, you know, there's still 2 weeks in the regular season, and you want to be sharp. There's such a balancing act that goes on now. You want to approach it as professional. You're still selling tickets. There's still fans want to see good entertainment. That's one thing. The other thing is you've got to be sharp going in the playoffs, and the way you do that is to play sharp.
1st and 10. Copeland at 9:58. Here's the top Canadian nominee for the Stamps this year. Brent Ralph contained by Randy Drew for a short pickup, maybe 3.
Well, Brent Ralph has had a great season. He has 646 yards coming into this game, and he, because of that season, has earned a contract extension from the football club. He got one this week along with Rob Lazio on that offensive line, and you know, that's how you produce. And I've said many times that that's the importance of the Canadian ratio, that sometimes it takes Canadians a year or 2, but they can be more than special teams players. They can compete, and Brett Ralph is doing that.
2nd down and another strike to Jermaine Copeland, who prior to that catch was 42 yards away from 1,000.
This is a timing throw on a man-to-man situation as Copeland is right here. And watch how he comes out here and then out of his break, and the ball is on time as he turns the corner. You can see the lot of room and respect he gets for his speed by Randy Drew, the rookie. And when he turns on that break, the throw is on time. That is almost impossible to defend.
4 catches, 65 yards for Copeland. Looking for his 4th 1,000-yard season. Time for Burris. And there's a strike, and Kenyon Rambo will score. Touchdown, Calgary.
Well, a lot of traffic across that middle. It's called the old over and under route. And it gives Henry Burris options. Kenyon Rambo is the over. Jermaine Copeland was the under. Copeland is going to come from this side. Kenyon Rambo is going to come from this side. Over and under. And whoever has got the most separation, in this case Kenyon Rambo, that's where the quarterback goes, and he makes a nice move to get himself in the end zone.
He left the Sam linebacker TJ Hill in his wake. Henry Burris has a pair of touchdown passes on the night. 33 for the year to lead as Rambo scores. Overshadowed by the high-profile Copelands and Lewises.
You know, if you run it right here, you're going to see Kenyon Rambo. I want to show you, if you stop it right now, right here is TJ Hill. He's in that chase position because he knows he has safety help, so he's going to play outside, thinking if Rambo goes there, I have help, no problem. But as he continues, now it becomes a bind, because as a receiver crosses a field like that, you're automatically in a chase position. The help is in the middle, but that's for the deep route, not for that cross or intermediate.
5 plays, 74-yard drive. Rambo didn't have a touchdown the first 7 weeks. He now has 9. Ashland Davis on the return. And he's angled out. Shannon James there to knock him into the Montreal bench.
In fairness to TJ Hill here, he really has to play this way. He has to play it on the outside shoulder, knowing the safety's here, but the outside protection is for this route. When you get this route, now you are in a complete chase position. That means you're behind, and if the ball is on time, it is the toughest route in football to cover, is that intermediate crosser.
Rambo now within 1 of the league lead in touchdown grabs. DJ Flick with 10. So the game opens up, a little more offense in the second quarter. A 1-point Alouette lead. Marcus Brady returning to the controls. Downfield, Ashlyn Davis. The catch bounced out into Calgary territory, and Brady looks razor sharp.
He does, and you know, this goes right to what that conversation was, Chris, about this is a tough game for these teams, but you got to give them full credit right now because they're putting on a good show. They are razor sharp. Brady's come in. He's completed now 5 for 5 for 98 yards. Henry Burris responded to his last touchdown. You're seeing professionals take care of business in a game that doesn't mean anything in the standings to either team.
Well, we can't tell Marcus Brady it doesn't mean anything. He wants to be the starter in a couple of weeks' time in the Eastern semifinal. Jared Payton straight ahead. And he's down to 45, 5 for Payton.
But you're right on his accuracy, and this was out of the gate the issue for Jason Moss. He was a little bit behind the target. He's flushed here, but watch how Brady, as he turns, running in the opposite direction, the toughest throw to make. You can't throw it any better than that, folks. And you're rolling to your left as a right-handed quarterback, get your body around and hit Ashlyn Davis in stride like that. Can't throw it any better.
Marcus Brady has the edge and experience in this offensive scheme. He's been here all year. Jason Moss, just the last 6-7 weeks. A pass that Thurman brings in and got under the low bridge as Trey Young was trying to lower the boom.
And you know, you mentioned Brady's been here longer, or in Montreal longer, and then Jason Moss. And that's, you can tell, you can see it because of how deliberate and how quick the ball is coming out of his hands. Marcus Brady right now, you can tell he has an agenda. He has a plan in the back of his mind. When he takes the ball, he knows where to go with it quicker than Jason Moss was delivering the ball, and that's why these timing throws have been right on.
And I think it's fair to say that he wasn't entirely in agreement that he was not the starter in this game. He'll roll here, and he has a wide open Kerry Carter to the 10, and Carter's into the end zone. Touchdown, Alouettes. 2 drives for Marcus Brady and a pair of touchdowns. And Kerry Carter has his second of the game.
Anthony Gargiulo, the end for the Calgary Stampeders, is in a bind because he wants to come up the field and he wants to take Brady on the bootleg. Brady's going to come out here like this, Marcus Brady, and the end has got to make a decision. Do I go here or do I stay and take the back out of the backfield and carry Carter? He goes with the inside run fake. Carter opens up just to the outside of him. No linebacker to be seen in coverage. Easy touchdown for the Alouettes.
Duval for the extra point. It's through. Now Montreal has put 24 on the board in the opening half at McMahon.
Designed perfectly by the Montreal Alouettes. Just a misdirection.
Marcus Howell with a burst to the 35. Take another look at the touchdown.
Yeah.
Kerry Carter, his second of the game.
I love the alignment because Kerry Carter is going to line up. He's right here, and he lines up on this side of the formation. And when usually you put a fullback there, it means you're going to run the ball to the tailback to that side because he's going to be a blocker. Well, what they do is they release him out the opposite side. Stop it here. Now, Shannon James, he's the guy who's got to stay out in this area to cover him as he comes out in the flat. But he committed to the play side where he thought the ball was going to end up by film study. A good misdirection play. Kerry Carter comes out the backside of the formation, and it's an easy run to the end zone.
We have an old-fashioned shootout here. Back to work goes Burris to try and answer. Swings it to Joffrey Reynolds, going nowhere. Diamond Ferry snuffs it out.
You know, it's film study, and what you do as an offense is you study yourself. And if you're always running the ball to the two-back side, then you can run this kind of misdirection, and all of a sudden the defense is caught. And Shannon James, who's put together a great season, outstanding season in the linebacking core for the Calgary Stampeders, was fooled on the play.
32-yard touchdown. Joffrey Reynolds lost 3 on that play, so it's 2nd and 13. Burris steps up. delivers, and he's got a completion. Jermaine Copeland busts a tackle, and finally eased out. He thought that Diamond Ferry got a piece of the face mask. They'll mark it at the Montreal 40-yard line.
Boy, a lot of patience here from Henry Burris because he has Joffrey Reynolds, and I thought he was going to drop it off to Joffrey Reynolds right away, who's going to end up right here. Joffrey Reynolds is going to open up, but Burris is patient. He steps up, he sees the running lane. He could have dropped it to Joffrey here, but he waits, and here comes Copeland across the middle. Now he's got a deeper one and a nice throw.
Fourth 1,000-yard season for Jermaine Copeland. On 60 catches, 5 on the evening already, and he has his fourth 100-yard game. Burris trying to escape and does, and now throws it downfield and incomplete.
Well, he thought Brett Ralph was going to come back to the football, and what Brett Ralph did was he turned up and went deep, but the ball had already left the hand of Henry Burris.
Now, we talked to Greg Marshall a couple of weeks ago about Burris. Clearly, he's not running the football with the shoulder, but Greg Marshall made the point that he still is a great runner in his ability to escape that heavy pressure, and we saw another example of it there.
You know what he's doing well tonight is giving up some ground to buy himself some time.
2nd and 10. And he guns that. One-handed attempt, draws a flag. Copeland couldn't bring it in, but he was being interfered with by Randy Drew.
Randy Drew has been victimized a couple of times on that timing out. And we've seen Copeland catch a couple in this game tonight. And this time he wants to come up and play a little more physical. It's to the left of your screen. Copeland comes in motion. So it's tough for Randy Drew to get up and get in a bump position because Copeland's hitting the line of scrimmage on the fly, and questionable pass interference call there.
Montreal number 24. First down.
And Drew has gone down, took a knee, as you could see that seemed to awkwardly go down on the turf. Got up and then felt something was wrong. And again, he's the double nominee, the top defensive player and the top rookie in Montreal. 3 interceptions on the year. And the knee seems to maybe jam into the turf here at McMahon.
Yeah, and that ball thrown high, that's why I say a questionable pass interference call on Randy Drew there. He did have his hand a bit on the back of Jermaine Copeland, but you could see his knee jam into the turf. And
well, we mentioned that the nominations were released this week. Here are the outstanding award nominees from the Montreal Alouettes.
yeah, you know, and one guy that I think, just talking to defensive linemen, and probably won't be considered as much. I mean, Randy Drew's put together a good year. He's going to be in tough against Cameron Wake, the BC Lions from the West. Ben Cahoon, a great season. Scott Flory, I know the Montreal Alouettes offensive line have given up 64 sacks this year, but Scott Flory has not given up one.
Jim Popp continues to, as far as he's concerned, Scott Flory's the best man on the offensive line, and you know that is you know, something you'll always back your own guy, but Scott Flory has been a perennial.
Well, everybody campaigns, you know, and coaches campaign for their guys without question. But when I do it, because we also get a vote, I talk to defensive linemen. That's what I do. I go, and it's the same the other way. You know, talk to defensive linemen about who's the best guys to beat or the toughest guys to beat. Talk to offensive linemen about who's the toughest defensive lineman to block. They know better. So, you know, and I hear Scott Flory's name a bunch when I do talk to defensive linemen, among other players, but I know he won't get considered because of the struggles that Montreal's had up there as a group. But that's why I wanted to mention, because I think Scott Flory's put together a real good year.
So is Randy Drew, and there has to be a little concern. Drew and Peyton both nicked in this game. We don't know how severe either injury is, but that's when you come into these games and you can't move up in the standings. You want to play your guys to get momentum, but you want to make sure that they're healthy for the big game in 2 weeks. So it's a 1st and 10 after the penalty, and wide open was Reynolds.
Oh boy.
And he couldn't bring it in.
Guess what? The dropsies and that psychological warfare has just crawled up into Joffrey Reynolds' kitchen now and is stirring the pot, because this is a couple in a row now that he's dropped. He fumbled after a great first series. Joffrey Reynolds fumbled twice. He's dropped a couple. That ball should have been caught.
And nobody near him.
No, and now it's psychological for Joffrey Reynolds again.
55 yards in the opening drive. Fumbles on the next 2 drives, and now a drop pass, 2nd and 10. And the corner right for Copeland, who can't bring it down. And with the former Calgary Stampeder Jermaine Chapman in a trail position.
Well, Copeland runs that corner route, and this one just out of his hands, just a little bit far on the throw. But, you know, to talk about that at this time of year, to have a player like Joffrey Reynolds start to have some issues psychologically with hanging on to the football, that's a scary one. You know, it's tough because you fight it. I always think of it, you know, when you're putting and you miss a couple of real short ones, and all of a sudden that hole looks like it's the size of a thimble, and it just shrinks on you, and you have to fight it. You have to figure out how to get through it, and the best way for Calgary to help Joffrey Reynolds is to keep giving him the rock.
I hate the way you keep bringing up my golf game. DeAngelis for the field goal, and it's good from 36 yards up, and it's a 5-point Alouette lead. We have 93 seconds remaining here at McMahon Stadium, first half. Marcus Brady's been on a roll, 8 hot out of the gate. And going for a lot more, he's got Kerry Watkins, and just a stride too strong for Watkins. Otherwise, another big play for Marcus Brady. A reminder that Wendy's Live at the Half comes your way moments from now. We want a ruling on the all-time Argo who gets 2 days off.
Well, this is under review, I think. I mean, this is a topic that will come up this week. So and congratulations again to our partner Chris Schultz, one of the all-time Argonauts, and he took the night off last night because of it. There was a big ceremony and everything. And how did that stretch into the weekend? What happened there?
I thought it was just 1 day.
That's what I thought.
2nd and 10, and that pass is picked off. An overthrow is brought down, and Shannon James comes up with it. And the top defensive player of the Calgary Stampeders has his 2nd interception of the year.
Well, and that just made up for Shannon James for the time he gets beat by Kerry Carter, because this is an overthrow by Marcus Brady. He has time to throw, a bit of throwing lane, but looks like he might have lost the handle because it came out of his hand fluttering. It was way too high over the head of Ben Cahoon, and Shannon James had dropped back into coverage, makes up for that early mistake, and there's lots of time for Henry Burris to see if he can get points off this turnover.
Had been a perfect night for Brady, but no longer. And it's Montreal by 5, but the Stamps with plenty of time here, 1:18. Burris guns that one incomplete. He wanted Nick Lewis, who hasn't had a catch yet. Chip Cox in tight coverage, and Lewis thought it was too tight.
You know, that's the opposite side of what's going on through the mind of Joffrey Reynolds right now, because psychologically for Shannon James, who makes a mistake when Kerry Carter scores for the Alouettes, he comes back, makes a big play. That's the quickest way to battle a mistake, because those things linger with you. It's like you walk away from a game as a football player, you might have played 40 great plays and 1 bad one, and it's the 1 bad one that sticks with you.
2nd and 10. Here comes the rush. There's Joffrey Reynolds with the catch and a spin for the first down. So
okay,
there's a little positive.
Yeah, and you see what he did when he caught the ball? He looked it right in. He was a little more careful. Another easy throw out of the backfield for Joffrey Reynolds, but watch, he's just in front of the goalpost here as he gets out into the flat here. But watch how he looks down at it. The ball's going to float into his hand. He secures it. He looks down, makes sure he has that football right there. Now watch when he turns around. Both hands will go over it. As soon as he's going to get contact there, he wraps it up, trying to get something positive.
Yard's got him 12 and a first down. And Burris over the middle, another strike, and there's a catch for Nick Lewis. Working against Chip Cox. 48 seconds left on the clock. And a fresh set of downs for Henry Burris.
You know, you almost, as a defender, when you're working on Nick Lewis, you have to almost get in front of him and take the chance that they'll throw it over your head, because if you're behind Nick Lewis, he will beat you to the football. He will outmuscle you to the ball. It's almost impossible to fight through Nick Lewis to get there.
Now they go to a double tight. And Burris out of the backfield again, Reynolds, and this is well defended. Good hit on the play by the middle linebacker, Kai Ellis. 4 for Joffrey Reynolds. 28 seconds remain.
Still time, and Henry Burris has, you know, he can get that first down first, so he doesn't have to push it to the end zone. And a Henry Burris, Kerry Joseph type quarterbacks, I know he's not running as much, but they love quarterback draw down in this area.
Yeah, that one may not be in the playbook today.
It may not be, but that's one that I know in the playoffs will be.
Clock running, 2nd and 6. Time for Burris to the end zone, and this is picked off. Etienne Boulay with the interception that snuffs a scoring opportunity for Calgary, and Boulay, the second-year safety, has his 2nd interception of the season.
Adds 7 knockdowns, I should say, which is among the team leaders for the Montreal Alouettes to his stats pack. He missed 3 games this year due to injury, and I think Etienne Boulay is the next big Canadian free safety, and he was going to be a star at the free safety position for years to come. I have been real impressed with the development of Etienne Boulay at that safety spot. I know that's a spot that's been an import spot of late over the last couple of years, but Etienne Boulay may change that. This is a guy that's going to be a future star here. The next few years, watch him.
Mentioned a second-year man, but his first year at the position, he was a linebacker last year, and the Alouettes will just kill the clock here.
And he's thrown the hat a bunch this season, too. I remember a game in Hamilton where he was hitting everybody that moved. He will hit you over the middle, and he has the ability and the range to make that kind of interception. A future star, folks. Watch Etienne Boulay in the next couple of years.
So a very entertaining first half of football. And the visiting Alouettes, thanks to that interception, will take a 5-point lead to the locker room.
Welcome back into our CFL studios. Dave and Matt and Jock, and as Chris and Glenn mentioned, Schultz with a vacation this weekend in the middle of the season. Well, we'll give it to him. All-time Argo. So 2 teams that already know they're into the playoffs, but want to get wins. That's a good ball game here. 24-19. Montreal with the lead on the road. Now, let's update you on what took place earlier today in front of 40,000 in Toronto. Not a lot of points on the board, but the Argonauts get it done again. Their 6th straight win. What a story. The Argos are 2-6 in their first 8 games, 8-1 since, and as a result, they are now in first place in the East with 1 game to go. Winnipeg is at Montreal next week. I beg your pardon. Well, I got it mixed up here. Montreal is at Winnipeg for a Friday night game, and Toronto is at Saskatchewan, and it's going to come right down to the wire for that race. And as you can see, Montreal, they locked up 3rd place last night as a result of Edmonton losing. You know, guys, I got a bunch of questions here. Why don't we just kind of fire some topics out? Schultz is not here. We'll do a little rapid-fire questions here, okay?
On the hot seat, huh?
Yeah, a little bit of a hot seat here. We'll start with...
we can take care
we're going to start with what we're seeing here right now. Moss or Brady? Based on what you're seeing right now, who should carry the ball the rest of the way? Or throw the ball the rest of the way?
It's a good question.
No question, Marcus Brady right now, the way he's playing. I think he's got a spark with this football team. I think he's connected with his offensive weapons.
And I would go with Brady as well, based not on just what I've seen this game, but when he came in on relief for Cavillo, I thought he just looked much more comfortable in this offense.
In the playoffs and the semifinals, we know Calgary is going to Saskatchewan. We know Montreal is going to either Toronto or Winnipeg. Which team has the better chance of winning a road game in the playoffs?
I'm going to assume that Montreal is going to be on the road in Winnipeg, and I think that Montreal actually has a better chance. Saskatchewan, I think, is a very strong football team. Winnipeg right now, I think, is slipping. I think Montreal, if they can continue to play with the way we're playing with Brady right now, has a better chance.
Yeah, and I'll just spin it the other way. Calgary's offensive weapons on the road, I think they can light it up with the best of them any given day, so I'm going to say Calgary.
Kevin Glenn is an outstanding player nominee for very good reason. Leads the league in passing yards by a mile. But we all know his numbers have been slipping. He's thrown 8 of his interceptions in his last 6 games. None today, but no touchdowns either. What's happened to Kevin Glenn's production?
Well, no Charles Roberts, obviously, today, right? No Doug Brown, no Jerron Bolden. You know, there's Tom Canada out. I know, that's today. I know.
That's today.
Yeah, and I also think that Milt Stegall, for some reason or another, he's not healthy, but he's certainly not producing, and I think that's his go-to guy. Opens up the rest of the offense.
But you didn't answer the question. What's up with
I just told you. Those are the reasons why.
But those guys are performing.
Not listening, Jack. Well, what do you say?
Maybe a little pressure there, Chuck. Maybe a little pressure.
Glenn has not been the same guy since he was injured 5 weeks ago. When he hurt his knee, now I've been watching his form. I don't see that
he doesn't run anyways.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And when I see him the way he's stepping into his throws, he doesn't look like he's having problems. But I think he's lost his confidence. I think he is not the same quarterback after the injury because of a lack of confidence, and I think he needs to get it back and get it back quick if they hope to get some success in the playoffs.
Interesting. Toronto comes into this week with only Montreal and Hamilton scoring fewer points offensively per game, under 20 points. They scored 16 today in front of that big crowd. They're the hottest team in the league, but do they have enough offense to win the Grey Cup?
No. No. I mean, I just say flat out, they have enough offense. They have enough offense to get into the Grey Cup because that defense is just so spectacular. But I think you have got to be able to do more than they've shown in the last 5-6 weeks to win a Grey Cup.
I think they do. I think they do. I think Michael Bishop possesses that big play capabilities, and I think he's got Avery, and I think he's Miles, and you know, I liked what I saw out of Avery today, you know, so I think that they do. Couple of that defense and the special teams, hands down, they can win it all.
Okay, well, we're out of time. Ding, sound the bell. We had more questions, but that's all we got. We're going to re-ask one of the questions that I asked you because we asked it in the pizza poll question. We asked you who has the better chance of winning that road playoff game. You heard what Jock and Matt think. Here's what you think. You blogged on and said 57% say Calgary can go into Saskatchewan and take care of business. It's going to be fun as we head into the playoffs, and this is why Schultze is not with us. He's out there with
There he is.
There he is, right there
Number
in the middle.
67.
Number 67 amongst a lot of Argonaut legends. A fantastic.
Johnny Wilson, Reggie
Pleasant. Reggie Pleasant.
Johnny
Look at that, Johnny Moen. That's awesome.
An Alouette lead, and standing by on the sidelines, Jermaine Franklin is with Coach Tom Higgins.
Coach Higgins, can you talk about the importance of this game for both teams despite being set for the postseason?
Well, you try to emphasize the importance, but sometimes it goes unheeded. We're still in the game. We want to win the football game. We can't turn the football over. We weren't able to stop Brady on his 2 long drives. We think we made some nice adjustments. Will be interesting to see how we can play the second half. But you can only tell so much. It's they have to show us now by their actions.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Well, he mentioned that word that has haunted the Stampeders this season, and it's turnovers. Turnovers an issue for Calgary in that first half with the 2 Reynolds fumbles and then a late chance to take the lead and the interception in the end zone.
Well, you heard the guys talk about it at halftime. The turnover situation for the Calgary Stampeders is one that it really has been Jekyll and Hyde with this football team. You know, if they turn the ball over, they lose. If they don't, they look real strong.
Jim Klopp has to be encouraged by what he saw in the second quarter from his quarterback, although Marcus Brady finished with an error and an interception. Montreal gets the ball to start the third quarter. Will they continue the rotation at quarterback, or does Brady have the rest of the night? Avon Coburn awaits. And here's Ashland Davis. And he was going east-west instead of north-south. As we compare the numbers for the quarterbacks, and it will be Brady to start quarter number 3.
Henry Burris with 199 yards passing, just shy of 200, so he's on pace for that 400-yard game once again. Both threw the 1 interception late in the first half. Marcus Brady got off to an early good start, 5 for his first 5, and then had a couple of incompletions. The 1 interception finishes that really just the second quarter.
Yep,
7 of 9 for 143.
That's not a bad 15 minutes of work.
Yeah. Jason Moss got the whole first quarter.
First down, and that play not going anywhere. Jared Payton back in. He was shaken up in the first half and didn't see much action in the second quarter. Back to start the third.
Yeah, they went back to Avon Colburn and put him in more in the second quarter. Jared Payton on first down. They're looking for the big, 3, 4, 5 yard pickup. Payton's average coming in 5.3 yards per carry.
Lost one there. Last week he had 79 yards. It was his best outing in 6 starts. Of course, a high point of the season, 160 against Calgary. Here's Brady getting outside. He does throw, and it's complete. And stepping out was Kerry Watkins. Watkins 5th in receiving in the CFL coming into this game despite missing 3 games.
Once Brady gets outside, now he's looking for the deep receivers to come back and the short receivers to turn up and go deep. And let's see if Watkins is inbounds when he catches it. It looks like that foot is inside the white stripe.
And there's the right foot hitting the white. But it's still 19 for Watkins. And a first down for the Owls at the 34. Here comes pressure, gets it away, and incomplete. Looked like Watkins got caught up in traffic on his crossing route.
Yeah, Elijah Thurman was trying to get past his coverage, which was Cedric Williams. And so as he tried to get through, it looked like Williams caused the problem there. You're going to see it come right about this side of your screen right over here. And what happens is Elijah Thurman tries to cut through. Watkins on that crossing route gets all caught up in the mix there and runs into Cedric Williams, so he can't continue to the football.
So it's 2nd and 10. And Brady, nice fake to buy a little extra room and lunging. And he's going to come up a couple of yards short of the first down. The Canadian reserve linebacker Neil Turnavatsky with the tackle.
Yeah, well, Marcus Brady, nice fake. It's kind of like a point guard who's driving to the hoop and he fakes it to that forward, and that freezes the defender. And the defender this time is going to be Shannon James. That little pump fake, you see 23 had to blind turn to even get back, and he doesn't get back into the play just because of that little pump fake from Marcus Brady, but he'll be just short.
Brady comes up, about 1.5 yards short, and Jim Pop is not going to gamble. So the punt unit comes on. And Marcus Howell drops deep.
Short yardage has not necessarily been an automatic for the Montreal Alouettes, so this is probably a good decision.
It's been another A-word adventure. That kick bouncing, a couple of hops into the hands of Howell, and then he steamrolled. Not much on the return, but Damon Duval gets up limping. And a flag on the contact of the kicker, 41-yard punt. And the Alouettes likely will come back on offense.
The kicker is protected when his leg is in the air and he is not moved to run.
Contact any kicker. Number 7, Calgary. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Damon Duval looks like he will be fine.
So it's Kevin Garrett, the newcomer, called Montreal ball. Garrett called, and it gives Montreal a new set of downs. Jared Payton off the right side, and he pushes the pile and gets into Calgary territory down to the 51.
Costly penalty for backup special teams player right here, Kevin Garrett, who's going to come in on this punt block, and he leaves his feet early, and when he does, his momentum carries him into Damon Duval right there. His leg's still in the air, contacting the kicker by Kevin Garrett, and that extends this drive for the Montreal Alouettes.
Duval's been banged up a little bit this year. Had that huge hit from Shannon Garrett on a block kick. Second down. Brady flushed. And he'll take off, and he'll run for the first down and step out at the Calgary 41-yard line. 11 more for Marcus Brady.
The Montreal Alouettes really have something to work with here with Marcus Brady's ability to not only throw and the run. We showed you that in the first half when he threw a nice strike to Ashland Davis on the run. Now he's showing you the decision-making process. Got great speed as he outruns Tate George to get the corner, and then makes a smart decision to pull it down when he doesn't have a real open receiver and just pick up the first down on his own.
So he's showing some mobility. He's 8 for 11 for 162 in the air. And the Alouettes have a first down. And Brady throws before he gets hit, but it may have impacted the throw. It falls incomplete. And it was Shannon James turning up the heat.
Shannon James is coming on the blitz from the top of your screen, and he just picks his hole. Rushed the throw a little bit for Marcus Brady, and it was off. Could have.
Second down and 10.
Shannon James, for the most part this season, has been the Tom Higgins, the guy that Tom Higgins has said has been their best player on defense, consistent.
He gets the word, that's the word, consistent, and wouldn't the Calgary Stampeders like that word to apply to their entire defense?
Wow, you know you have some challenges when you have to change your entire system mid-season.
Procedure, Montreal number 65. 5-yard penalty, remains second down.
You know, and keep in mind for the Calgary Stampeders that they built their football team over the last couple of years on the premise that they were running a 30 defense with 3 down linemen. So that requires different types of athletes. Then they bring in and change it this year. Cornelius Anthony is the odd man out of this situation. Can't get back in the lineup, a healthy scratch. And he is still the team leader in sacks and was one of the team leader in hits. He can't get on the field.
Procedure call makes it 2nd and 15. Left tackle Skip Seagraves called. Here's Watkins a catch, and he'll step out of the way of Julian Battle. And on the sidelines, they'll mark him a couple of yards short. Now, this is an area where you might consider that short yardage. Or do you kick the automatic field goal and take an 8-point lead?
Yeah, I think you take the points when you can. You know, this is a play that is extended by the mobility of Brady again, and Watkins opens up. And again, the Calgary Stampeders still trying to figure out where everybody is in this new style of defense, and they have this week and one more to fine-tune before they head to Saskatchewan.
3rd and about 1.5 yards. And Jim Pop sends out his place kicker. And this will be right from the 40. Duval struggled beyond this range. He's just 5 for 11 outside the 40 this year. But this one's right down the middle. And it is an 8-point Alouette lead. A year later, the official courier of the CFL, tackling hunger across Canada. We haven't made a donation yet tonight.
Well, you look at Montreal and Calgary, they're down there in the list. So with only a week to go after this game, looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race. The BC Lions and the Toronto Argonauts, final week of the season.
First down Stamps, and Burris going to air it out, looking downfield, and Copeland was in a little hand fight, saying he got held up. And it's incomplete. No flag.
Well, you know, I've always been of the opinion that players like this they'd rather decide the outcome than have the officials decide the outcome of this play. And, excuse me, right here. Those guys I first circled had a really good view of the play that you're going to see, which is cool. There's a little bit of the grabbing going on, but Copeland does a little pushing as well, and I've always said let him play if it's just a little push and a shove.
2 pieces of good news for Alouette fans. No flag, and Randy Drew was involved. He's back after being shaken up earlier. And look at Burris move around, throw a strike, but there is a flag. Kenyon Rambo, who has a touchdown catch of the game, has that grab near midfield. Well, let's find out what this penalty's all about.
I think this penalty might be on Diamond Ferry.
Illegal contact on the receiver, Montreal number 40. That penalty is declined. First down.
Good call, partner. The 17-yard gain to Rambo will stand.
Well, you know, you've heard the term bump and run, right? Diamond Ferry took the bump and run. He took the bump part to a whole different level. Diamond Ferry, he sees Copeland coming in motion, coming out of the backfield, and he said, okay, bump. There's the bump. He took that's more than a bump.
There's down Burris quickly, a look into Nick Lewis, who has his second catch and another stamped first down. Number 3 receiver in the CFL, Nick Lewis.
You know, and that bump by Diamond Ferry, which kept this drive alive and sets up this, you know, in all honesty, when he pushes to the side, you're allowed to hit straight on, but when you go to the side of your body, that's where the penalty is.
14 for Lewis. That pass over the middle, it's caught by Copeland. He's having a big night against his old team.
You know, he really is, and you consider this last 2 plays a couple of times now. He was kind of pulled and was getting tugged down the sideline on Randy Drew. Then Diamond Ferry knocks him over. He bounces back from both those plays and makes a tough catch over the middle from the high side of the field right up here as he comes right into that area where he knows he's going to get hit.
27 on that one and 129 in the game for Jermaine Copeland. And Eric Wilson, the man who comes in to replace Devon Claybrooks, has gone down. His last game was August in Vancouver, and just his 3rd start on that Alouette defensive line.
You know, you mentioned Jermaine Copeland and the former Montreal Alouette, Jermaine Copeland. Well, interestingly enough, Kerry Watkins for the Alouettes receiving corps had a big game a couple weeks ago, 192 yards receiving. And that was the 2nd biggest in Montreal history, and Copeland had the biggest at just over 200 yards receiving. And I believe that was back in 2003.
So Jermaine's feeling it tonight, and we've got a timeout on the field at McMahon midway through the 3rd quarter. Wilson continues to get attention, stretching out at the Alouettes sidelines. 8:19 left, 3rd quarter. And the Calgary Stampeders are driving, trailing by 8. And Henry Burris and Jermaine Copeland have hooked up 6 times tonight. This is the biggest game of the year for Jermaine Copeland.
You know, it's safe to say the Calgary Stampeders heading into the playoffs offensively can play with anybody.
Yeah, that's not really the question. Jumbo team on here, 1st and 10. Reynolds alone set back, and they'll run the option, and Burris is nailed, well. And they don't want to run Henry Burris.
No, it played well by Mark Estelle and Elaine Kashama on the outside, because what you want to do against the option is to string it out. Make Henry Burris head that way and go flat, so he doesn't have a choice to either go this way or pitch the ball. If you can flatten this play out, you got a chance. And watch Mark Estelle flatten. Now Burris is kind of like, well, I can't really run and I can't take the pitch. It was played perfectly defensively.
330. Loss of 1 second and 11. Burris just dumps it off. And Ryan got tripped by the turf monster, and he ends up at the 10. He'll be 3 yards short when he might have had a shot at the end zone.
Oh, I think he would have. I think Ryan Thelwell scores, and I think he knew it. He knew when he got to the other side of that coverage, he's going to come all the way across here, and when he gets through the linebacking core, there is nobody else by the design of the play. All the right side receivers have gone to the opposite side, so he had the corner on Mark Estelle. He was on his way to the end zone, and I think he knew it. He got so excited, his body went faster than his legs could carry him.
And former Stampeder Khalid Abdullah got a chance to recover to make sure he didn't get to the 1st down. Henry Burris lobbied briefly to go for it on 3rd and 3. Instead, it'll be a DeAngelis field goal from short range, and that will cut into the lead. It's now a 5-point Alouette advantage.
Ryan Thelwell, Chris, took a while to get going for Calgary. He has over 600 yards receiving. We talked about Brett Ralph and how he's improved. Ben Cahoon's in this game for the Montreal Alouettes, a leader for his team. It's amazing this year. The Canadian receiver is really making a mark this season, because you got Jason Claremont in BC, Cahoon, Kamal Peterson in Edmonton, and Brock Ralph, the brother of Brett, in Hamilton. All leaders on their team along with Andre Talbot. you throw in the fact that Andy Fentus is right there with DJ Flick in Saskatchewan. The Canadian receiver really making a big impact this season in the Canadian Football League.
Certainly has been. Interesting race. Cahoon near the top once again, perennially. Here's Coburn, gets the dump-off pass and breaks the tackle, and Coburn finally wrapped at the 47. Brian Clark ultimately takes Coburn down.
You know, and I know there's a lot of people, and I know Wally Buono is one of them, and I agree with the thought that you don't always want to say that, listen, they're good for Canadians. They're just good football players, these receivers that we just showed you, Ben Cahoon, the top of that list. But again, it does say the importance of the Canadian ratio and how sometimes the ratio gets the Canadian into a camp after a year or two to catch up. Now he's an impact player.
Prominent players.
Exactly.
Right up the middle and close to midfield on that carry by Coburn, who comes up jawing. Gets a little push from Terrence Patrick.
We've seen an interesting football game here tonight. It really has. You know, played professionally by both teams at a very high level. You've seen some great plays made on both offenses. The defense is still trying to find themselves a little bit. It's important for both these teams going in the playoffs to get something they can hang their hat on, especially offensively. What can we rely on in the playoffs?
2nd and 4. And once again, Coburn with a burst to the second level before he's taken down. It's a first down.
Again, they're isolating one linebacker in the middle, and it puts a real bind on this guy right here, Brian Clark. Brian Clark, again, has two gaps that he's looking at, and if he takes the wrong gap, he is in big trouble. And Brian Chu, again, will allow Brian Clark to pick a side, and he'll take him to that side, and Coburn just cuts off that block. The way you guard against that is you put another linebacker in there, or you have to bring your safety down in the box to help out Brian Clark. You just can't take two gaps.
Brian Clark, a former Alouette. Fresh set of downs for Marcus Brady. And he guns that one complete to Cahoon, punished by Dwayne Carpenter, the safety. You mentioned that both teams are still fine-tuning, and it's a good contrast because the Alouettes' problems are being sorted out on offense, while the Calgary Stampeders still have work to do on defense.
Yeah, they have to figure out the different aspects of the 40 defense and exactly where they can go, what type of coverage, what type of blitz package can they lean on when they have to get the stop, like right now.
2nd and 3. And they do come up with the stop. Randy Chevrier helping plug the hole. And not a lot there for Kerry Carter.
Well, this time, you know, again, this time you load up the box if you're the Calgary Stampeders, and this time now 1, 2, 3 linebackers in there helping Brian Clark. They didn't isolate Brian Clark, so now he can flow the football. He stays wide. That's his responsibility, and they pinch in Trey Young and Shannon James to help out. So that's a change-up so that the isolation isn't on Brian Clark on the running play, because that's too much for anybody. That's not just Brian Clark. That's by design. A linebacker can't take both gaps.
So on comes Duval, and he'll attempt from 42 yards out. Trying to restore that 8-point lead that the Alouettes had built. And Duval just squeezes it in, and it is, once again, an 8-point Montreal advantage. Since 2000, the Alouettes are 1-7 when Anthony Calvillo is unavailable, trying to win for the second time without AC in that span. Here's the first carry, I believe, of the second half for Joffrey Reynolds.
And for Joffrey Reynolds, that's a huge one. And I know it was only a few yards, but for Joffrey Reynolds, who slipped into that fumble problem again that he had last year that haunted him and he thought was behind him, that just kind of crept back in there in the first half. And he had a couple of drop passes. He has one catch now in the second half and one solid run, and didn't put the ball on the ground.
You look at that line and you say, hey, he's having a pretty good night. But there's more to the story so far this evening. Second down, long out, and that one was almost picked off. Davis Sanchez had an eye on that, did a quick burst on the ball.
Yeah, and made a good decision at the end of the play because Davis Sanchez got a good jump, and the right here, Sanchez, if you get the good jump, you know, you're inclined to try and take the football. But at the last second, he thought, yeah, I got a good jump, but you know what? I'm going to take the tackle first. And he gets the knockdown and the tackle because of it. And the Calgary Stampeders are going to have to kick, because if he goes for the ball and just misses, Brent Ralph has nobody. He takes off down that sideline, has lots of yardage. So great decision on the fly by Davis Sanchez.
Another one of those top 25 all-time Alouettes. Brian Chu, Ben Cahoon, Anthony Calvillo among the group. And a punt off the side of the foot that will bounce out at the Calgary 39. Ball's at the Montreal 39, just a 33-yard Burkdale's punt. Marcus Brady looked one way, goes to Watkins, hits screen, and he found enough of a crease to get first down yardage near the 50, but there's a flag on the opposite side of the field.
Boy, those big boys like to get out there on that little hit screen to the short side of the field. It's one of the ones where the O-line is allowed to go out and start to cruise. That's what they call it. Cruise out there, and if you're standing around a pile and one of those old linemen are cruising, you're going to get whacked.
You know, there's been so much talk about the Alouettes' inconsistency. The frustration level's been high in Montreal. Let's take another look at.
And there they go. You can see the right of your screen, the big old lineman get to go out in space. Skip Seagraves with a nice block there.
Long conference about this flag away from the play.
Illegal contact on a receiver. Calgary number 32. Penalty is declined. First down.
Penalty was on Kranz Clements. It's declined. The 11-yard catch by Watkins will stand. But I wanted to make the point that the Alouettes are really a rebuilding team. 18 first-year Als.
Yeah.
26 of the players in the lineup for Montreal in this game are in their first 2 years. So you're going to have some growing pains, aren't you?
And are in the playoffs with a chance.
Less than 90 seconds to go. Here in the third quarter, open Cahoon, and it's incomplete. Brady missed an opportunity there with an open receiver.
Yeah, he taps himself on the head saying the old my bad, because you're right. Ben Cahoon found that soft spot in the zone, which he does so well, maybe better than any receiver in the league. And that was just a ball that was thrown too far inside by Marcus Brady.
But a lot of positives for Brady tonight, though.
Well, I think he's earned the job. I mean, that's his. This was going to be, let's see, I think, for Montreal, who's going to take this team through the playoffs. Marcus Brady has done that.
2:07 in less than 2 quarters of work. And now looking deep and off the fingertips of Elijah Thurman, who may have scored.
Yeah, he should have had that. I mean, Elijah Thurman down the seam. This ball, when Brady hit himself on the helmet after that throw to Ben Cahoon, that was his fault. This one to the right of your screen, just a straight seam route by Elijah Thurman. He had to fight through Cedric Williams to get open. And that might have turned his body a little bit, but that ball hit him straight in the hands. If he hangs on and can keep his balance, there is no one to tackle.
Okay, the card's alive.
So one goes to the quarterback, one to the receiver.
Good luck.
Howell awaits, Duval to punt. And Marcus Howell shakes the first wave and is finally pulled down. There's another special teams tackle by Walter Spencer. Well, a reminder that Wendy's CFL on TSN Friday Night Football returns next week. These Alouettes take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It'll be a big game for the Bombers. Still trying to finish first in the CFL East. Live coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. We'll have it for you on TSN HD.
After Toronto won earlier today, they now are in first place in the East by 1 point, and the Bombers have to win and hope Toronto loses in their final week of the season.
Argos have to go to Saskatchewan. Calgary will finish in BC, and the Stamps will hope that's not their last trip to Vancouver in 2007. But they've got to they've got a date on the road in Regina to worry about long before the Lions of the postseason. Henry Burris with a half minute to go in the third quarter as Brett Ralph and the other 11 on the field brings him down. Chip Cox.
Oh, nice fundamental football by Brett Ralph to come back, take a few steps back to the ball, and that's where the throw took him. But here he is here. He's going to come down and run his curl, but then when the ball's in the air, he takes another couple of steps back here to make sure he can make that, seal that reception. Watch how he comes down. Now, puts the brakes on there. There's the curl. Now, City, cut back. 2-3 hard steps back to the ball to secure the catch. That's fundamentally sound.
He had 7 catches all of last year. That was his 51st of the season. And now the fade, and that one is picked off. Randy Drew shows you why he's the defensive nominee of the Alouettes. Second interception of a Burris pass on the night. And the Alouettes have the lead in the football when we start the fourth quarter. Young Stats are brought to you by Rona, the Canadian how-to people.
Stats are pretty even after 3 quarters, and so is the score. And again, in a game that doesn't change anything in the standings for these two teams, both are putting up some offense. Marcus Brady's looked good, as has Henry Burris.
2 yards the difference in net yards, even though Montreal's had the ball for 10 minutes more. Now, you were going to explain as a former defensive back how that interception took place.
Well, it's a fade route. If you're the receiver running straight down the field, the quarterback is counting on me as a defensive back to look at you and squarely here with my back to the play this way. And what Randy Drew did there, instead of turning his back and facing the receiver, he ran down the field looking at the ball, and that's how much confidence he has. He can put his back to the receiver and say, no problem, I'm confident enough, I can take the football. Well played by Randy Drew on that interception.
And it results in the 4th interception of the year for the rookie DB. Marcus Brady in pursuit is Gargiulo, and Brady with that point guard toss got it to Ashlyn Davis, and Davis will take it down the sidelines into Calgary territory.
Well, you know, the Montreal Alouettes really have something on the mobility here that's going to help their offensive line, and it's also going to help them move the change. As Marcus Brady gets to the outside, now he's looking with his eyes, running with his eyes up the field. And again, a lot of those fakes as he's moving, it is really similar to a basketball player, how he's moving the football around and using that as a fake against the defenders.
24-yard play to Davis. Now they go double tight ends. And the pitch. Coburn flag down, and Coburn limited to a couple, and holding will be the call against Montreal.
The concern for Montreal as they head into the playoffs has been their O-line on offense. And, you know, this is all the changes we talked about. But if the Montreal Alouettes can start moving Marcus Brady around like he has moved, I mean, this is the one dimension that he brings.
Montreal number 68, 10-yard penalty, remains first down.
Brian Chu, the 11-year veteran, called.
It'll take so much pressure off of that offensive line that has struggled if Marcus Brady becomes a run and throw on the run type of quarterback. I mean, now you basically can say, get outside of contain, get away from that offensive line, take some pressure off of them. That could be something that the Montreal Alouettes can really build on into the playoff.
1st and 20. Here comes the heat.
There goes again.
There he goes. And he'll pull it down and takes a hit at the 37-yard line.
Yeah, and Chris, this is my point if Marcus Brady is a drop back pocket passer, this is a sack. I mean, that's as simple as that, because he doesn't have the ability to jump outside like that. I mean, Tate George is quick. He's one of the faster defensive ends in the league. He couldn't run him down.
Another tackle for Shannon James, but there's an element you don't see with an Alouette team led by, well, their incumbent, Anthony Calvillo.
Well, pocket passers just, you know, they can't, and that's where the offensive line, if your offensive line has gone through changes and is struggling, then you hold the ball a little bit too long as a pocket passer, and that's where those sacks are starting to pile up. Now, you know, when you look at Jason Moss also pocket passer. Right, that falls right into the challenges that they've had on offense. And it's not to say that they may not need Jason Moss down the stretch here, and they may not need to see a little Jason Moss in the playoffs. But I think Marcus Brady has shown something tonight in his mobility and his decision-making process while he's running that he has earned the right to maybe lead this team into the playoffs. And of course, we know it would be Anthony Calvillo if not for his family situation, but
there were his numbers on the year. The touchdown total, the only one that I think you'd quibble with, that it was not the year where Calvillo was putting the ball in the end zone with the frequency we've seen in the past. Otherwise, another fine year for AC. It's 2nd and 12. 6 receivers. Brady quarterback draw, and he'll be stopped up short at the 35, dragged down, and Ternovatsky in on the tackle once again.
Trey Young just filled the hole that Marcus Brady thought he had. Trey Young has made the adjustment to come from safety down to linebacker in this new defense, and he shot the gap perfectly there, and that just ended that play.
This defense operating without Scott Coe again this week, and Duvall will come on to try his 4th of the game. Just made from 42, and this one going to be from about the same range. Trying to make it an 11-point game. And Damon Duvall is in playoff form. 33-22, Alouettes. Quarter. Let's see if Henry Burris can cut into that. Dishes it out to the right side, and Kenyon Rambo has a first down as he's taken down at the Alouette bench. What a year it's been for Henry Burris. Started slowly, but has silenced his critics.
You never silence the critics in Calgary. I'd say right now they're still on my front porch just waiting, waiting for me to do something bad just so they can chomp at my bit. And that's the thing, I really don't pay attention to the bandwagon fans because the thing is, either you're with me or you're against me. I mean, you can't be a fence sitter.
Some trouble there on the shotgun snap, which sometimes draws some of the criticism, but they've talked about Hank and Frank. I think Frank's had a very bad year. Hank's been outstanding.
Hank has been outstanding. The last game he played prior to this one, 401. Before that, it was 304, 336. He has put up some big numbers. Now, the one Achilles heel for this offense this year has been the turnover problem. They're last in the league in giveaways. They have given the ball away more than the Hamilton Tiger Cats have by 1, and the Ticats have a game in hand coming into tonight.
And the turnovers have been a problem in the postseason. Flag down, looked like Calgary went across offside, and Burris will run out and get to the sidelines untouched. But again, the flag looks like it's going against the Stamps.
Now, they'll talk about the turnovers. They'll say that, we got to eliminate the turnovers, but it's also a psychological problem, something that they have to fight with. Joffrey Reynolds will be the key and focal point on that. But that was a late interception by Henry Burris. But I'll give you a quick stat on that Henry Burris. Coming into tonight, he's thrown 4 interceptions in the 7 wins, 7 interceptions in the losses. This is obviously turnovers are always a big factor. That's not news. But for the Calgary Stampeders, it seems that when they turn the ball over, it's in bunches. Like when they have turnover problems, they don't just turn over once. It's 4, 5, 6 times in a game.
Well, early in the year, he was having the fumble problems. In fact, he has fumbled the ball and lost it 5 times this year. The good news is 4 of those times in July.
Offside, Calgary number 85. Offside, Montreal number 26. The down one replayed, 2nd down.
So they get a break because Kashama was also offside, as was Kenyon Rambo. The turnovers tonight, though, have been costly. It's an 11-point Montreal lead, and 13 of the Alouette points have come off Calgary turnovers. The 2 Reynolds fumbles. So it's 2nd and 16 all over again. Burris has time, and that ball incomplete, intended for Brett Ralph. Davis Sanchez looked like he was breaking on the ball, but it sailed high.
Somehow Davis Sanchez on the outside here. You just said he was screen, but somehow Davis Sanchez has got the email on Brett Ralph before he got it. He's opening that email before he has, because he is reading the mail right now and running the routes. Davis Sanchez has been in front of the route a couple of times and been that close to interceptions. That ball's not overthrown. Davis Sanchez scores.
Ashlyn Davis is the punt returner for Montreal. That is 19. Outside, but flags down as he streaks down the sidelines and angled out by the punter, Burke Dales. But a flag on the play after the 49-yard punt will make a timeout here at McMahon. Punt returned by Ashlyn Davis. And it's back to the Alouette 15-yard line. Marcus Brady will like to work some time off the clock here to help protect a 33-22 lead. Just under 11 minutes to go at McMahon Stadium. And a handoff up the middle, and Jared Payton back in the game, and he'll thunder all the way up to the 35.
You know, these two teams, as they go into the playoffs, and they're trying to figure out exactly what are some of the areas that they need to shore up before they hit in the playoffs. For the Calgary Stampeders, their run defense is going to be a bit of a concern. Another big play against that run defense. They already, before this play from Jared Payton, had 100 yards, Montreal Alouettes, rushing the ball. Last week, the defense gave up 211.
29 for Payton, 20 on that carry alone. Brady running out of time, but running out of trouble. And now downfield, and that ball dropped. Kerry Watkins had it and let it go. And you consider the drop by Thurman. That would have been a nice catch, but Kerry Watkins makes those plays. And think of the numbers Brady might be putting up.
Yeah, so does Elijah Thurman. So you're right. Those are two plays that not only were the receivers in behind coverage and probably could have run for another 40, 50 yards, but that's exactly where Marcus Brady had to put the football. As you see Kerry Watkins work it outside, and the short guys go deep in a scramble situation, and he makes that catch 9 out of 10 times.
Second and 10 at the 34. Here comes pressure. Gets it away. Eric Delorier the catch. And he's brought down on a good, sure tackle. Trey Young again. It will be about a yard short of the first down.
Trey Young ends up getting into the middle. He's part of the picture. Marcus Brady has to roll away from pressure because he has to go this way because he knows the backside of this blitz is not blocked. So he has to try and run away from it. There's Trey Young in the middle of your screen. He's going to play the safety spot, and underneath the coverage coming across the middle, Krantz Clemens.
Clemens made the play.
Who ends up bringing him down. But
Delorier, by the way, that's his 22nd catch of the year, but they have been in recent weeks. He's a rookie. He's got good size at 6'4", 206, and he's becoming a little bigger part of the Montreal offense. You talked about Canadian receivers. Here's a guy that maybe 2-3 years from now we'll be talking about him.
Exactly, and that's usually what it takes. A couple of extra years of development, and then they're ready to contribute in a big way.
It was a 9-yard gain, and Jim Pop not going to gamble 3rd and 1. Marcus Howell at his 23. And he is hit immediately. Matt Gronegood downfield quickly, 44-yard kick. Stampeders have the football. They trail by 11. 8:45 to go, fourth quarter. Henry Burris has gone all the way at quarterback and has his 32nd and 33rd touchdown passes of the year. And here's Joffrey Reynolds, huge hole. And finally cut down by Etienne Boulay at the 50-yard line. But that's a 22-yard scamper by number 21.
Well, for some reason, the Montreal Alouettes are going to vacate the hole. They've got one linebacker on the inside and a defensive end in the stand-up position that bounces way, way outside of Kenyon Rambo, and that just opens the floodgates. I mean, Chris, you could have run for a first down through that hole.
Well, I might have got a couple.
We might have got caught from behind, but Joffrey Reynolds didn't. It was safety, Etienne Boulin.
Now double tight ends. Back. No, the fake to Reynolds. Downfield, wide open. Brett Ralph's got it. And he's out near the 35-yard line. Another first down. A couple big plays here. And Calgary had to work quickly. They're down by more than one score.
Brett Ralph right there. You know, this Montreal defense is a bit of a roller coaster ride for Jim Pop. I mean, it's young, it's quick, it can turn the ball over. We've seen that, but they also have their times when they have these huge lapses where they give up big plays. And Chris Jones, that's what happens with young players. They look great in one play and the very next, not so good.
1st and 10, Burris steps up. He fires, looking deep for Brett Ralph, and overthrows him as Ralph got in behind Davis Sanchez that time.
Sanchez has been playing real aggressive out there in that wide side corner. He's almost had a couple of interceptions, and you see the matchup as he sits at about 10 yards and waits on it. He's thinking curl again. He jumps at. He's done that a couple of times, and they get him on the double move, and Henry Burris just overthrows Brett Ralph a little bit there. But what a cannon for Burris. Far side hash mark. He threw that baby about 75 yards and was a little long.
He threw a rope, and there's an injured Alouette taking a knee. Henry Burris with 322 yards passing tonight. So it's the 10th time in the last 11 starts that he's over 300.
Yeah, they can play offense with anybody in the league. I believe that. And Henry Burris playing his best football, that's good news.
And while we have this injury attended to on TJ Hill, we'll step out and be right back. Just doing a little math on Henry Burris, who's at 4,220 yards on the season, 427 yards short of a personal best season total back in 2000. He's already bettered his touchdown totals for a full season.
And he's already bettered his rushing totals. Best rushing performance for Henry Burris in his career in the Canadian Football League this year. So combining all of the tools in his toolbox, his ability to throw the deep ball, his ability to run the ball, decision-making process, and he got away from the fumble problems he had early on in the year.
Mentioned 4 fumbles in July. He really got off to a slow start. His first 3 starts, he averaged 173 yards passing per game.
With a new coordinator in George Cortez.
And since then, with George Cortez, he's averaged 338. And he's right on that, and maybe a little bit better by the time this game's done. He's still got a half of a quarter to work with. So TJ Hill is out of the game. And a 2nd and 10 from the Montreal 35. Burris in trouble. He somehow gets away, but not that time. Ball knocked out of his hands by Dario Romero, and they're going to rule it incomplete.
Well, early pressure causes Henry Burris to get out of there, because that pocket collapses. I think it was, well, Diamond Ferry filled the gap in the middle. John Bowman came from the outside. There's Dario Romero. And he runs him down. Bowman causes him to step up in the pocket and get flushed.
And every time Henry hits the deck, there'll be some concern. Although the Ike Charlton hit in the first series a couple of weeks ago, I think, made everybody feel a little bit better. He's got the shoulder harnessed after the dislocation in Hamilton. Here's Sandro DeAngelis to get it back within 8, and he hits it, and it's 33-25. Talk about Henry Burris as the outstanding player in the CFL in 2007. Here's how he feels about that.
My thing, though, is, you know, I don't want to be the only guy winning an award or being nominated for an award, you know, and that's my only thing about winning a champion, as far as winning a championship in comparison to winning an individual award. I don't want to be the only guy hoisting a trophy. I want to make sure that our entire team has something that they can take with them and share for years to come down the road. So, you know, to have that opportunity to be nominated, it's a great feeling. But when it comes to winning it, I want to make sure if I win something, everybody wins something.
Team guy.
You know, as much as that outstanding player honor is a huge blow, Marcus Brady hit the deck. Now, was he touched by the flying defender Brandon Browner with the corner blitz that Calgary has utilized in the last few weeks? I don't know if many other teams do.
Well, Brandon Browner is lucky that Marcus Brady goes down. It's going to come from the right of your screen because he just leaves his feet. I mean, he becomes a projectile over the top of Marcus Brady. If Brady stands in there, that's probably roughing the passer as he's going to lead with his head. But Brady ducks it. I don't think he even touched him, so he can cut up and run.
Loss of 8, 2nd and 18. And the Brady straight ahead and weaves to the 39. He got back to the original line of scrimmage and about 5 more.
You know, when you look at Henry Burris, just to get back to that thought you had, Chris, there about Henry Burris is the outstanding player in the league, and take a look. Now that, you know, Ricky Ray, this is competition. These are the nominees for that category, and to take nothing away from the other guys, but your front runners are here. And there. Those are your front runners because Ricky Ray's been hurt. You know, the other guys on defense, not to take anything away from their seasons. But your front runners are the 3 quarterbacks and Joe Smith. Henry Burris missed a game. So did Kerry Joseph. Yes, last night.
Ben Cahoon carrying the Alouette colors in that category.
Stay on him! Stay on him, Jerome! Nag him, nag him!
Marcus Howell. And he's tackled by Darren Diedrich after a 44-yard punt and a late flag. At the end of that play, Kai Ellis, the Alouette middle linebacker, called for unnecessary roughness, and the Stampeders trying to mount a comeback. Will have great field position on the Alouette side of the half, and Jim Pop files that one away.
I'll make a note of that, he says.
Wasn't anywhere near the Howell return. Again, the fake to Reynolds, and look at this, Henry Burris. I didn't think we'd see that tonight, and he goes unscathed with the feet first slide as it opens up wide for Burris on the run.
Real early. Remember that last series? Joffrey Reynolds broke through the middle early. Well, that's what the fake influence is, and here comes Burris around the corner. If you get that early run with success from Joffrey Reynolds, now everybody's going to pinch down to that defensively. Elaine Kashama is the guy who bites, and Burris goes down in a hurry.
You mentioned a career high rushing. Burris had 513 in 05. He now has 623 on this season. Look one way, now the other, and it's a touchdown. What a tightrope to Nick Lewis.
Chip Cox had no chance on the play. I don't know what Nick Lewis is doing, but no chance on the play because he has his back to the quarterback, and you're right, that ball is on a rope over the shoulder of Chip Cox, who doesn't know it's coming. And strong hands once again from Nick Lewis.
3rd touchdown pass of the game for Burris. You mentioned the one that he overthrew to Brett Ralph. That was similar, but a bullseye. And the extra point by DeAngelis. They didn't go for 2 in the tie there. It's a 1-point game. Lots of time left, 4:16. And I think if there was ever any need for evidence that they're not rehearsing touchdown celebrations in Calgary anymore, Nick Lewis gave us the evidence.
Well, you know, and I'm not sure I don't go for 2 for the tie there, but Nick Lewis, the inside receiver, like Chip Cox plays him real well in just the trail position here. But because the ball is thrown on a rope, there is no time for Chip Cox to react. And Nick Lewis just shoots his hands up with strong hands and the confidence in it. He doesn't let that ball touch his body. He reaches out with his hands and uses those strong hands to pull it in over the shoulder of Chip Cox. That's confidence in the receiver.
And something that needs more rehearsing, but it's not allowed here anymore.
I would suggest less rehearsing and just toss it out. But a nice catch by Nick Lewis.
Well, they opt for the convert instead of trying to go for the tie here. Time's not an issue right now, but
why don't you go for 2? I think you go for 2 there.
I agree.
You've got time for a couple of possessions. if you don't get the 2 and you're down by 2.
You know, we were in Montreal when we asked Tom Higgins about going for 2, and did he not tell us then he never does unless there's less than 3 minutes to go?
That's what he said. It's just a standard rule for him, because he thinks you're going to get enough possessions that the score is going to change a couple of times anyway.
So Henry Burris enhancing his outstanding player credentials, and there's Ashland Davis. Shannon James makes a special teams tackle. And we'll take another look at Nick Lewis's 5th touchdown catch of the year.
Well, watch what Henry Burris, from his perspective. If you're at Chamboulet right now, you're looking, I'm going right. You're looking this way. Look at Burris. He's saying, I'm going to look this way and take the safety with you. And what does he do? He throws the ball in this direction. So this is the look off. Veteran quarterback. Look off, look off. If you're at Chamboulet, you're saying, okay, he's throwing to that side. I can't go and help Chip Cox. He's left in the one-on-one, and Nick Lewis wins that one-on-one.
Chip Cox looked like he was in perfect position, but it was a perfect strike from Burris to Lewis. A 1-point game. Marcus Brady, a little shovel toss inside. And that's Ashland Davis to the 37-yard line, so he has 4.
Now a 1-point game, too. You have to consider, if you don't go for 2 there, even though it's not inside of a couple of minutes like Tom Higgins suggested to us early in the year, if the Owls go down here and just kick a field goal, they have that 4-point separation, which means now the Calgary Stampeders have to go for the major.
Second and 6. And McMahon's alive, wanting a defensive stand. Here comes the pressure. Brady runs. Tay George from the backside gets him. Big play by the top rookie in the Calgary Stampeder camp this year.
Well, you tell me if these players think that there's nothing on the line and are not playing hard, because Tay George came from all the way to the backside and came in and caught Marcus Brady from behind.
3 minutes left at McMahon. Brought to you by Sport Check, your Under Armour headquarters.
Well, you take a look at that. Henry Burris is doing his thing, even though he missed last week. He is back on track. Marcus Brady probably has taken that first team job.
Great driving kick inside the numbers by Duval. Pretty good return, though, by Marcus Howell. Let's take another look at Tay George tracking down Marcus Brady on the play that forced the Duval kick.
Yeah, for young players, I love the hustle, because this is a stunt to the outside. And that stunt, so Tay George goes all the way outside, right? Now he keeps hustling, keep playing. Play's not over, keep playing. Backside player goes around the horn on a stunt and chases down an athletic running quarterback from behind. If you're a young defensive lineman watching this game, you become a chance to play professional football if every single down you play like Tay George played right there.
Let's tip our cap to both teams. A game that doesn't mean anything in the standings. They put on a good entertainment tonight. Burris misfires there over the middle. Incomplete.
They really have. I've loved to watch Marcus Brady try and grab the handles of that. Henry Burris playing very well, and he's also giving Tom Higgins, their head coach, the opportunity to say, you may not play the whole game next week in BC, simply because Burris has shown you can rest him and he comes back as sharp as when you played him the last time.
Down by 1. 2:39 to go. Looking at 2nd and 10. 4 receivers lined up. One came in to help block, and Ryan Thelwell's a catch and a first down at the 45.
The guy who came in to block, made the play, was Kenyon Rambo, I believe, and he comes in on a blitz. Etienne Boulay, the safety, had come through the middle on a blitz, and if Kenyon Rambo doesn't pick it up the way he does in the middle, watch Boulay right there, and bam, that's the big block. That block's not there. That ball doesn't come out of the pocket.
So it's a first down. Crosser, Thelwell just out of his reach. And he had eluded the coverage of Mark Estelle.
You know, I want to show that block one more time because Kenyon Rambo's had a great season. And just in case, because I didn't get a chance to really draw it here, because if he doesn't come in and seal that and make himself big in the middle, watch Kenyon Rambo, 85, and that's a huge hit. Henry Burris, untouched, can deliver that strike. Receivers sometimes have to be blockers.
Well designed. Now they look at another 2nd and 10. Burris scrambling, takes off, flag down. Burris first down, another big play, and hits the deck before he takes a hit. But this one's coming back on a hold.
Yeah, and the hold was on a stunt. It looked like to me Bobby Singh put the clamps on Kai Ellis. Kai Ellis, the linebacker, was trying to get at.
Holding Calgary, number 52. 10-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
It is Bobby Singh, the right guard, and it wipes out a 20-yard run.
Yeah, we'll show you Bobby Singh right here. This is a big play. Bobby Singh is going to have to try and pick up the stunt. Number 93, Kai Ellis, he comes around. Now, he picks it up nicely there, but that's the hold that he doesn't get away with right there in the middle of your screen. He doesn't get away with that one. He had the collar around Kai Ellis, and that's a good penalty. It's a good call because by the officials. And not to point out Bobby Singh, but Kai Ellis makes the tackle if he doesn't hold him.
So now 2nd down over, 2nd and 20. And here comes pressure from the safety blitz. Etienne Boulay, and the pass falls incomplete. Brett Roth and Davis Sanchez continued their duel. And another flag is down at the line of scrimmage.
The crowd on that side of the field here in Calgary, I think, wanted a pass interference call on Davis Sanchez. The right of your screen, he did make a little bit of early contact. I didn't think it was enough to draw the penalty. Plus, that ball looked a little bit short to Brett Ralph anyway, right at the top of your screen.
But you could see enough contact to know that McMahon Stadium would react.
Yeah. But you know, the officials have done a nice job of letting that stuff go tonight, and that's been consistent. So let the players decide the outcome. It was a short throw, and Brett Ralph.
Offside, Calgary, number 2, 82. Pass interference, Montreal, number 2. 5-yard offset back to the original line of scrimmage. 2nd down repeated.
So as I said, as I say, they're doing a nice job of being consistent. They changed their mind and called Davis Sanchez.
There was no flag right at that point. I'm wondering if there was some bumping earlier on route. But in any effect, it's 2nd and 15. Lewis was offside.
And I don't think that was pass interference on Davis Sanchez.
2:01 on the clock. 4-man rush. Burris throws. And that one too hot to handle. Intended once again for Nick Lewis.
You know, with 1:55 left, Chris, I still think there's time. Henry Burris locked in a little bit to Nick Lewis there, and Lewis has been a guy you're going to see up in this part is where Lewis ends up down the sideline. And right out in the curl area, there's going to be open. Jermaine Copeland, Kenyon Rambo was open in the outside, and
Let him go!
Burke Dales with a good punt. Another flag down, and so is Ashlyn Davis. That's great downfield cover by one of the co-captains on the Stamps, Dwayne Carpenter. 55-yard boot, but again, a penalty marker on the play. 1:46 on the clock, and with Montreal football and the lead by 1, it kind of makes you wonder again about the decision not to go for 2.
I still think you do. But a good decision to punt the ball in that case, not go for it on 3rd down.
Holding, Montreal, number 46. Half the distance to the goal, 1st down.
So Walter Spencer called, and Montreal will be backed up. Reminder to tune in to TSN Sunday for Football Night in America. The biggest names in the business give you the lowdown on this week's NFL action. It all starts at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Again, no Sunday night game because of the World Series, but they'll wrap up the day's events. The Hosers here to see if Calgary can come back. Alouettes in a hole here. And Avon Coburn trying to dig him out of that hole with a big run to the 21-yard line. And that's 14 for Coburn.
Run defense, an issue for the Calgary Stampeders as the Montreal Alouettes just want to chew up the rest of this game. And once again, they keep finding that hole in the middle. I mentioned against Winnipeg, Calgary gave up 211. They only gave up 86 against the Bombers the first game, and they won that one. But their run defense, when it lets them down, they lose the football game.
A couple of weeks ago, we saw Charles Roberts run up for 154. First and 10, Brady has Ben Cahoon wide open. And Brian Clark misses with the strip, and Cahoon's got another first down. And 2 critical first downs for the Alouettes, and time starting to run out on Calgary.
Yeah, and not just first downs, but they grabbed big real estate in the 2 plays. I mean, in the shadow of their own goalpost, those 2 plays have now got them close to midfield. The Alouettes now, even if they have to punt the ball here, they've given Henry Burris a long field to try and come back into field goal range. So those 2 plays huge for Montreal.
14 for Coburn, 19 for Cahoon, and suddenly they're at the 40. Avon Coburn off the left side has 5 more, and we're down to the final minute.
And down to crunch time for the Calgary defense. They really need to stop right here. 1 more first down and that much more yardage, which would be another 5 yards, even if they just get it. And now Henry Burris has got the length of the field after a punt. So that's, you got to start thinking 3-4 plays down the road. It's right now at the time of the clock. Yeah,
this is the play. Calgary defense needs to stop as Montreal looks at 2nd and 5 with 42 seconds in the clock running. 2 seconds on the play clock. Are they going to get it off? Just. And now they're stopping it, and I think the back official, I don't think the snap of the ball was in time, and you could hear Calgary reaction to it. And a time count violation here will result in a loss of down, will it not?
Yes.
31 seconds left. But they'll have to add time back on the clock, if that's the call. And I think it is.
Time count violation, Montreal number 8. It's loss of down, it's 3rd down. Timer, please reset the clock to 34 seconds.
Boy, that's a costly
3,
mistake.
4.
It really is for Montreal, because they could have iced the deal. And Brian Chu is livid on the middle of the field, the captain in the middle of that offensive line. Angry that they didn't get the snap off, because they get the extra 3-4 seconds on the clock. They got 34, Henry Burris does now, once he gets the football.
Well, it was fractions of a second, excuse me, Suits. Either way, I was watching the clock and trying to watch the snap of the ball. It looked like it was fractionally late. Well, Brian Chu disagrees. I think Chu was watching the clock, and he seems to think he snapped it on before it ticked off. And now Chu's ticked off.
Yeah. And Marcus Brady wanted to work the clock, but he got caught.
Howell had a little trouble picking it up, and there's 23 seconds remaining now. That's a long field for Henry Burris. He'll be starting at about his 18.
Now for Henry Burris with 23 seconds to go, he needs field goal range. It's about the 40-yard line. And remember that he has 2 receivers that are great at one thing. They're great at the jump ball, and I'm talking about Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland. So at some point in this 23 seconds, Copeland and Nick Lewis will be the targets. They have to be, because if he can throw it up and they can win a jump ball, they can get that yardage in a couple of plays.
If you think Sandro DeAngelis can make it from around 55 to 57, they need 42 yards in 22 seconds. And this may take a while. Brett Ruff dislodged from the ball, but there is a penalty marker down. That took a long time, 15 seconds left. Sandro with a couple of 50-yarders last year here against the Alouettes.
Oh yeah, he can make it. I mean, of all the kickers, he's got that live leg, and that would be well within his range. And he loves the pressure of that too, and has been solid when it's the game on the line. But again, Burris is going to have to make the big play. He's going to get good coverage.
Illegal substitution. Montreal, number 5. It's a 10-yard penalty.
Oh boy.
First down.
Mistakes, 2 mistakes in a row by the Alouettes that shouldn't happen this time of the year. Gives Henry Burris a few more yards to work with. But sooner or later, Burris, who's going to face that secondary in Montreal that's going to be off, is going to have to throw it up and see if his receiver can win the jump ball, win the fight for the football.
Pascal Masson was late coming on, the former Stamp. He's out there now. They'll rush 3, drop 9. A dozen seconds to go. Burris the out, and it's not going to get much, and he better get out. And Kenyon Rambo does at the 39, but there's just 7 seconds left, so they've got time for one quick play, and it's a tough task now.
Yeah, and that one doesn't help. But you know, on the outside, Kenyon Rambo was the open receiver, and in any other given situation, that's the guy you go to. But again, coverage on the deep receivers, Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland was there, but you got to just throw it. In this situation, see what happens, and Henry Burris kind of went with his same read.
Again, he needs about 17 yards in less than 7 seconds to give DeAngelis a chance.
There it is.
Over the middle, Rambo can't bring it down. Oh, if he would have, they would have been in field goal range with time to kick it. But there's 3 seconds left, and they're down to 1 play, and they'll need some help by a penalty for a home run Hail Mary.
And if Kenyon Rambo catches this ball over the middle, and it's a tough catch, but if he catches that ball over the middle, it's about a 47-yard field goal attempt, or right around there, and he did find a little hole. There was also an open Jermaine Copeland outside of him. Etienne Boulay playing way off.
Alouettes have called timeout. That gives Burris a chance to check in with George Cortez.
Yeah, and this is where they Hail Mary. Hope she answers. What you do is you put 3-4 receivers to one side, you bunch them up, and you actually have plays designed here offensively that 2 receivers go for the football. One's like a trail. He's trying to look for the tip and rally to it almost like a volleyball dig. He's trying to find if that ball comes out of there. On the other side, defensively, you just want to bat it down. Don't keep the ball alive in the air, and no penalties is what you're thinking defensively.
Wonder if this will cause Tom Higgins to reevaluate his 2-point plans.
Yeah.
Right now, the business at hand, 3rd down. One last play. Henry trying to buy a little more time, and does. Now loads and fires. And here's the jump ball, and it's an interception for the Alouettes. TJ Hill, the 3rd pick of the game, and this one goes into the books as an Alouette victory. Jim Popp's team wins his 8th of the year. And now Calgary's record 7-9-1, 33-32. The Alouettes win again at McMahon.